All right. Guys, we're here. We're live today, reunited with the man, the myth, the legend, the Heads Up Challenge master, the best Heads Up Nolan Hold'em Challenge competitor in the history of Heads Up Nolan Hold'em challenges. And listen, you guys have seen him on my YouTube channel. We've been watching him play, battling 200, 400 high stakes Heads Up Nolan Hold'em against Dan Negreanu for the past, what feels like maybe 10 to 15 years, but it's been the last 3 months. This guy's been in the trenches 3 days a week, battling hard, and he finally took down his challenge. He won $1.2 million against Dan Negreanu, plus who knows how much else in side bets. And it only cost him multiple months of his life studying the great game of two-card pot limit Omaha Nolan Hold'em. But listen, man, we're very excited to get this guy on. One of our favorite podcast guests around here, one of my favorite people in poker. We got the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Douglas K. Polk, a.k.a. the Supreme Leader. What's up, Doug? Welcome back to the podcast, brother.
It's good to be back, man. I think this has been one of the longest stretches without doing a Joey pod.
Yeah,
right?
well,
I think it's been a while.
Yeah, you were one of the last podcasts I did for poker related, actually. So it was you. Okay. Then I had on Landon. Then I took a couple 2.5 months off. During that time, you were studying like crazy, playing Nolan Hold'em, and also you came back out of Twitter retirement, and I would get some tweets. You're talking about my man Johnny Vibes. You're talking about all these different things. I go, man, Doug he's in rare form right now. So how does it feel, buddy, to complete this challenge, to put in that intense grind in the lab daily, studying, playing, the pressure, the stress, the attention, all those things kind of culminating in this moment here and victorious and taking the victory laps, doing the podcast. How does it sort of feel right now to look back on that time?
Oh, it feels amazing, man. I mean, for starters, whenever you set out to do something and you accomplish it, I think that's always one of the most rewarding feelings in life. And with this challenge, I set out, my goal was to win in a solid clip, realistically try and win 7 figures. We did that. And I more importantly, I feel I played at a really high level that was becoming to the type of edge that I needed to have for the type of play that I was hoping to play, for the player that I think I am. I think that I managed to work extremely hard, play at a very high level, and I think that was reflected in my win rate and my play, and in a lot of the hands that we ended up showing down. I'm proud. I'm proud of the body of work. I'm proud of the hours I spent, deep in the solver streets. I don't enjoy that. I did it. In the trainer streets, I don't enjoy that. I did it. In the playing streets, I don't enjoy that. I did it. So I got deep in everything, and I came out with the win. Obviously, a solid win in terms of big blinds and profit. And then I also, of course, won some side bets. And then I think I also put a little respect on the online heads up streets, Joey, which I think is always important, to put some respect on the online game.
Oh yeah.
But I think overall, the way that it ended up, I'm happy about it. I'm proud, and I'm also relieved because there was a moment where Nick Schulman said this on the Upswing stream, where someone said, "Well, what if Doug lost to Negreanu?" And Nick said, "Well, I think he should just kill himself." It was just completely in stride. And well, that was a bit harsh, Nick. Jesus. But luckily we won, which is good for everybody. Well, good for everyone who bet on me, and I'm proud and relieved and thankful.
Yeah, there's a lot of parts to trying to take this story, because it's interesting leading up to the match, and then you have the match, and you have this long process, and you got to form your team. You're forming the study sessions that you have, and sort of you're reconstructing your life to figure out how the hell am I going to do this for multiple different months. And then you have the interpersonal relationship with Dan Negreanu that took place as well. And then you have the battle with yourself in terms of like, do I still enjoy poker? Okay, I don't enjoy this part, but maybe I enjoy the competition aspect of things. So why don't we kind of go back to the beginning, just sort of lead up to the challenge with you and Dan Negreanu. So just to recap it for people out there, Doug and Daniel played a 25,000 hand challenge, and a bunch of people did streams. They played the last 2.5 months. We were streaming 3 days a week on my YouTube channel, graphics and all. There were celebrations. There were rocket ships. There were all sorts of crazy things happening in there. There were songing. There were dancing, singing. And Landon's still waiting for you to do the cat jam, by the way, too. But
oh, nice.
It was a great time. And basically, Doug and Daniel competed. Everyone was paying attention to it. Everyone was talking about it. 25,000 hands. Doug Polk comes out victorious, wins $1.2 million profit of the table. Not without a little drama in between, which we'll kind of get to. But So let's go up. How did this match take place? Because you, a heads-up specialist, one of the best of all time at the heads-up Nolan Holm format, Dan Negreanu, legend of poker himself, but not necessarily known for his online prowess, more of a live tournament guy, high-stakes live cash game guy. So just tell people a little bit how exactly this came to be where you two were competing in this challenge.
Yeah, this started with I believe it all started with a Nick Schulman tweet where he tweeted a picture of me, and it said something, I'm paraphrasing, but it said, remember when this animal came out and dusted it off wearing this shirt, and then we never heard from him again? It was something like that. And Negreanu responded and said, yeah, because this is what happened, and it was just an image of me, of some guy getting knocked out, or maybe he called me a petulant child.
Yeah,
I got spanked like a petulant.
I think.
Yeah. And so I saw that, and at that point I thought, well, this is a great spot to run a bluff because I can just challenge this guy to heads up. You spanked me, okay, let's go then. And there's just no chance we'd ever have to actually play. And so I issued the challenge, and he accepted, which was no one saw coming. If other people had asked me the odds beforehand, I don't even know what the line would have been on there actually being a match, particularly because I think the main way he had sort of responded to a lot of the trolling over the years, or the stories that we covered about him over the years, was just kind of ignore them. I thought that this would fall under that umbrella, but I think with COVID and not being able to go play live for him, I think that this was an opportunity for him to be able to play, obviously get to be in a match that would be very high profile, and then also improve his game to play better when he does end up in future events. So he ended up wanting to take the challenge, and I think they also had some software that they felt really strong about that made them feel that they could take their game or take his game to a level that could compete. So he said yes, and it was one of the more interesting negotiating processes I've seen, because first off, it wasn't done through private messaging at all. It was completely done publicly. It was, he would tweet, I think these things. Then I would tweet, well, what about these? And it was just tweets back and forth, which is not normal for heads-up matches. I think in the past, I've played in a heads-up match before versus Spencelski. I've also, Donger Kim played one against McFrame, where, I kind of talked to him through that. And then, there was the Jungle Dura one. Basically, none of these heads-up challenges go down in that fashion. There's usually a discussion. What are the rules? What are the odds? What are we doing? This was just tweet for tweet, back and forth. We would negotiate. And there was a big thing about pre-flop charts. And for a while, I thought he was dodging me because originally he said, let's play early October. Early October came. It didn't happen. Mid-October came. I started to feel, hey, am I just getting punked here? I've spent several months practicing. Am I just wasting my time? And then ultimately it culminated in starting in early November. We played our first hand, and it was a live poker session, and that's basically the build up to the challenge.
Yeah, I remember talking with you when I remember I put up a tweet. I go, well, these guys just play heads up. I would have loved to see a match the two of you guys play because you guys had this long feud. I never thought it was going to happen either. And then when you did accept, and I asked you about it, and you were like, oh, I didn't think he was going to accept. I go, man, that's And then I guess, did he not want to play too as well? Is that because you guys had a discussion? You guys did an interview together as well. So did he not want to play the challenge as well? You guys both just accepted the challenge, and you're like, oh, well, we got to kind of do this now?
Well, for him, he thought this would be a big win for GG Poker. Obviously, he promotes them. He's one of their pros. And so he thought this would bring in a lot of eyeballs to GG Poker. And, then it became pretty apparent as we were talking it over that it would be a little bit of a gray area to do that because it would be an online poker site operating for play money in Nevada, but clearly with big stakes, and they're clearly a part of it. What's the legality like on that? And so we decided to play it safe and just do it on WSOP, but then obviously that can't promote GG Poker in the same fashion. At the same time, the GG Poker YouTube channel hosted a stream every day on this. He did all of his post games there. I have to imagine that this did drive many eyeballs just online to GG Poker and what Negreanu was doing, and of course GG themselves. So I bet it still ended up being at least somewhat good for them in that regard. But of course, it's not nearly as good as having the hands actually played on GG Poker. To be honest, I'm also, I don't really know much about GG, so I wasn't super pumped to go play it on GG anyway. And when they said we had to leave the country during COVID, that was just a no-go for me. I'm not going to fly to some country and post up for however many months while I play this thing out. I would rather be at home and be able to get into a good rhythm and stuff. So that was part of the process too. I'm sure there's pages I'm missing here because it went on for months.
I know it did.
So
Yeah.
it's hard to have an exact this happened, then this happened. I'm just kind of going with big picture. Also, in terms of what was offered, I originally said I'd play him in multiple games. I said I'd play him in 2 games if he wanted to. I also offered for there to be whole cards if he wanted to. I think both of those he felt were not good for him. The whole cards thing is kind of obvious. If you're the better player, whole cards help you more, I think, because if you're the better player, you can kind of pick apart what they're doing. And then I think adding another game is good for me because I had more time to prep and also more competent at heads up. So I think he didn't really like either of those conditions. So we ultimately did cards down, 25K hands. Halfway point, loser could quit if they felt that they were basically if they wanted to quit, they could quit. And yeah, that would be it. 25K hands, winner at the end wins it.
Yeah, people are wondering. GG Poker is a new site that's been trying to build up to be one of the #1 poker sites. One of their main sponsored players is Dan Negreanu. Fader Holes is on there as well too. Felipe Ramos. They got the Brazilian market. They got Elke. So they're basically trying to build themselves up and establish themselves. So they streamed 3 times a week as well. They posted a lot of highlights, and I thought they were a big aid to covering the challenge. And one of the reasons why the challenge was so popular and so widely seen is that you had GG covering it, you had the Upswing channel cover it, you had Solve for Why guys covering it, I was doing a stream, and then a bunch of other people were talking about it too. So I think that collaboration amongst all those different people made for an event that the fans had multiple options to see and to get to hear what's going on. So I do applaud GG for being an active participant in that, because they could have taken the WSOP route where they didn't really provide much support or anything like that for the match. And leading up to the match, when you talked to play on WorldSeriesOfPoker.com, did you guys work out any sort of special deal in terms of rake back or promotion or anything like that with the bet?
Well, leading up to it, we did our own things. I prepped my own way. I was in touch with my team. He was in touch with his team. So we didn't really we didn't try and figure that aspect out together. Really, it was kind of done separately. I also want to talk about just the community involvement and the streams and everything. What part of what made this such a spectacle, I think, was obviously you have the background between me and Negreanu. We have a long history of not exactly agreeing on most subjects. And I think that kind of made this really added to the juiciness of the challenge. And then on top of that, you could bet on it. And a lot of people bet on this. I really do wonder in terms of poker events where this ended up being in terms of amount of money wagered. It would surprise me if this was the #1 most gambled on event of all time in poker. It wouldn't surprise me. I could see that being the case here. There was tons of money bet on both sides. There was cross books. There was bets on how much I would win. There was this, that, and the other. Second half bets, session bets, all of this stuff. People were betting on basically just everything to do with this. And people were bored. COVID's going on. Just fire down some money. Obviously, I think people that invested in the market or crypto or whatever are doing really well. People have some spare change. They're throwing it in the match. Maybe they bet on Biden, et cetera, et cetera. And basically, I think we just had such an incredible volume of betting happening on this match, combined with the fact that you can't go anywhere and do anything, that the community really rallied around this as just sort of a vector to socialize and get to kind of still be in the mix a bit. And I think when we saw the streams, we had at least 3 major streams. I think that GG, Upswing, and yours were the big streams that people tend to watch. But yeah, you had some smaller ones too. Solve for Why did one. I'm sure some other people did as well. And I don't know what the total concurrent viewership over all of those streams combined was, but I'd say most days it seemed 10, 15K people were watching live or something to that vicinity, which is a lot of people. How many events have that many people? And then you consider the fact that there was no hole cards except for one completely mismanaged stream where I tried to stream with no hole cards.
You kept putting a picture of the guy dancing at the pool.
That was the last session. That one I wanted to show my cards. But yeah, so other than that, we're talking about 10, 15,000 people, maybe probably on average, watching a session with no cards. That's just that's kind of crazy.
The most that we did, the most we did was near 8,000 when Phil Galfond was on here, and then you and Daniel had the breakdown, which I kind of want to get to when we talk about during. You guys are breaking down. You guys were on the phone arguing for 15 minutes. I told Phil, I said, I can't imagine what that call's like. I wouldn't want to be in the middle of these two guys battle. Like, you can't limp, you can't tank, and you two just going at each other on the phone for 15 minutes. That may have been the people wanted to hear that conversation, Doug. They were real interested to see that one.
I mean, I can kind of spoiler that to be fair, there was only one person that was really angry in that call, and that was me.
Okay.
Negreanu wasn't really saying that much. He was just trying to kind of make his points. And then, Phil is not going to be someone that's just fired up either. He was just sort of trying to wade through what he thought should happen.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's, we are wasting my time. I have to wait through 20 seconds of you deciding what you want to do, and then on the flop, if you're going to check, which you check your whole range, wait 20 seconds. Obviously I'm going to get fired up over that. I think it was a bit much. I think most poker players would agree that was a bit much. I know some people think it's all unfair in a match, but in my opinion, it was a little over the line to go for the stalling, to just try and practice in the off time. I understand he was upset about limping, and it did make a really weird spot. Is this against the spirit of the bet, the tank?
Yeah, good question.
And I talked to Phil a bit after it, and he said, I really hope this isn't close down the stretch, because I don't want to have to make a ruling here. It's a tough spot for him, right? And obviously Phil takes what he does very seriously, and wanted to try and do a good job for both of us. But yeah, that session was chock full of drams. But overall, I think that this didn't have that much drama. I think some of the post-game interviews had some, and had some discussions about certainly luck and sausages and who was luckier and where dicks may or may not be. I think that some of that stuff definitely got discussed, but all in all, I think we kept it pretty respectful for the duration of the challenge.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty chill. There was kind of a lull in the action, right? Because I kind of just go back and you see how many people are watching the streams overall. So when there was a lot of action, we're getting 3,500 to 5,000 people, and then down the stretch, we're kind of getting that numbers too. And then when it was kind of lull in action, we were doing a little bit less, 2,500 to 3,500, kind of in there. But anytime one of you guys had an outburst, or if he had an outburst, for some reason, the viewership would jump up another 1,500 or 1,000 the next stream. So it was, as you said, right, there was so many concurrents on all the channels, that on Twitch and on YouTube, that I didn't know how many people would come out to watch it, but it seems like it only got stronger down the stretch too. Like, people were still fired up. They're sad the stream was ending. I was sad the stream was ending. I was like, oh, it's so fun, like watching and I know you two guys, and you guys have such a long history, and I know your relationship with Heads Up Nolan Hold'em, and you want to show people that, hey, I'm still a supreme leader, right? I still know what I'm doing here, and I know how much you wanted to achieve kind of what you actually end up achieving, and it's all around. There's just so much kind of happening with it, man. It's really, I think people are just trying to figure out, what the hell do I bet on now? What do I do now during this lockdown?
It was very funny whenever anything happened. So Limpgate, or whatever we're going to call it, Stallgate, when that went down, just boom, everyone, viewership everywhere, just at its absolute highest. And it's just funny to me, because I see in the chat, oh yeah, this wasn't arranged. I can assure people I did not want my time to be wasted. I have to sit out and call Phil and try and not have him tank, right? Yeah. But yeah, the moment there was any drama, people were just tuning in immediately. And I think on the first session when we played live, there were some people that were upset. These guys have been arguing online for forever, and then they're all nice. But it's just one of those spots where we're gonna play 29,000 hands. I'm gonna talk with this guy all the time. Obviously, a lot of money is on the line. I'm not gonna make this. I show up and I'm also just a dick, and it's what I'm saying. We're gonna spend so many hours doing this, and that it's just. That kind of environment for that long would just be too annoying. It'd be one thing if you showed up and you faced off versus someone that you battled a bunch online, or had disagreements with online, and you're gonna play one session at a table, whatever. But this is something I'm gonna have to play. I don't know what it ended up being, 200 hours of poker versus Negreanu, 150, 100. I don't know what the number of hours. That's so much poker. Probably more like 200 actually, if I had to bet. But
a long time to spend with another guy. Yeah, another guy playing a guy, talking to him on the phone, working things out, texting in between, stuff like that. So when the challenge gets accepted, right, and you realize, like, oh my God, this is actually happening. Fuck me, what am I gonna do? What's the process like for establishing your team and establishing the people that you're gonna be working with, Button Clicker and Pellegrino and those people?
Yeah. So first step is, when you're trying to get good at something, is you want to build out a team of people that can help you achieve what you need to achieve. And I think the most important element to that is, at least in this space, maybe there are some spaces it's different, but find someone that has done it before. In poker, it's a little bit different than in sports, for example. You might have some really brilliant coaches that just never had the physical ability to play at that level. But in poker, I'm not saying this is universally true, but more or less, if you were never able to play poker at a high level, you're not going to be a good poker coach. I'm not saying that's 100% true. There are some specific examples where it's not true, but I've never been a big fan of I can teach you everything you know about the game, but personally I can't win. That just never sat right with me. That's why at Upswing we always had a strategy of bringing the guys that are actually crushers. Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe they don't sound as polished, and maybe they're not as good at teaching people concepts in terms of ability to teach. But I know that what they're teaching is true, and that's the most important thing. There's always going to be trade-offs. I would rather have the guys that really know and have won at those stakes. So the first step was find the guys that are currently crushing. I ended up working with Frab XC and Button Clicker. Frab was really more the coach. Button Clicker is more of a player that was also working with Frab. And basically those guys are just amazing at poker. They're just two of the brightest poker minds I've ever spoken poker with. Mm-hmm. Frab in particular he's just so good and so consistently good. And he went through every session I played. I got notes of every hand I fucked up along the way. Every time I overcalled, there was notes in the morning. It was basically just I knew this was the guy. This guy was very polished. He knew his stuff really well. He had a good coaching style, and it was clearly the right person to have in my corner. Mm-hmm. I needed to have someone like that. Then after that, I'm sure I could have won with just that, but I wanted to take the steps that were necessary. I also reached out and talked to some different people. Hey, do you know what's the current state of the art situation for pre-flop stuff, for flop stuff, for different size stuff? And that's how I ended up talking with Brian mm-hmm. Pellegrino, Primordial AA, for those of you that don't know, and working with his team. They have some really cool basically bot that is extremely good, uses some different techniques that most bots don't use or most programs don't use. And I knew that those guys were going to be really helpful to have in my corner, help prepare stuff, help prepare my ranges. Then I also had a team of Upswing members that were tracking Negreanu's stats. Although that didn't end up being that important, I wanted just to kind of know what Negreanu was up to. And I got people out here checking off turn bet, check, just that kind of stuff. We had a master spreadsheet with all the stats and stuff. It didn't end up being that useful because Negreanu's stats in most places were good. Yeah. There was a few spots that they weren't, but it wasn't, when you're playing someone that's pretty reasonable, it's not going to be a gold mine just having someone's stats, Mm-hmm. I mean, there was some spots that it was good. For example, versus Delay C-Bet, he just didn't, I don't think he had enough continues, but overall his stats were good enough to where I eventually just had them stop putting it together. But yeah, I mean, so much help from people to teach me. And then of course I also had the software. You take your sims, you train it on. I mainly used Lucid GTO. I also used some of GTO Trainer or GTO Plus Trainer.
There's a lot of them. They're all around the same names right now. All the trainers. Yeah. I've been researching all the trainers recently, and I was reading the paper, so I saw the kind of the system, the program, whatever you want to call it, that you were using to train. I went and found that paper that those guys were all a part of with Gnome, and very interesting stuff, right? Because that's sort of how training's being done now. Is that you play against these programs, and they give you immediate feedback on what's happening with your strategies, and then it's on you to sort of figure out, okay, why might I be doing this? Why am I doing that? So it sounds like with the program you were using, and this is actually something we talked about when I asked you for feedback on something, another program out there, you said it only has a few bet sizes. So what made this program that you were using to train, what made it so effective, and do you feel like that's the future of training?
So we have several different programs here, and I want to just clear which ones are which. First off,
the one related to Brian Pellegrino.
Okay, so well, let me just go through everything. So first off, I obviously have a solver. I use that to find solutions. To be honest with you, I did the most work in this challenge was done me on my own, mm-hmm. learning and practicing and going through sims and running sims, and I ended up doing a lot of size testing myself. So I was very hands-on in being very self-sufficient. And in fact, Frab said of any person he's ever coached, I was the most self-sufficient, doing my own thing.
I believe it.
Updating stuff, and making sure I really understood stuff, because it's one thing to have someone teach you something. It's one thing to actually take that and then really become, really learn it well. So anyway, I had a solver that I used to learn. Then there's the program that Brian and the guys that work with him were Caleb and Ryan. I tweet all of their handles the other day. Basically, they could input sizes and respond with optimal preflop ranges, more or less, or input flop sizes and respond with optimal, which pick out sizes. There's lots of different tests that we could do.
I see what you're saying.
So
Yeah.
so it wasn't I didn't have that program that I was doing stuff with it. I would say, hey, he's doing this now. He's using 2.4x open. Let me get first 2.4 ranges. Hey, he's 4-betting this size. Let me get versus that size 4-bet. So that wasn't used as much for the study portion. That was used more for pre-flop range creation and flop single size optimal solutions. And then there was a final program that you take sims that you'd run and you'd put it into and you'd play versus.
Mm-hmm.
And I mainly used Lucid GTO for that. But I also used the simple post-flop one, GTO plus trainer. So yeah, basically I use all those programs. And I see people in the chat, oh wow, Doug had so much help with this. Yeah, you want to play at a high level, you're gonna need a lot of help.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't, oh wow, this isn't two guys, just their knowledge, enter an arena. This is, hey, one guy gets to say, hey, you want an AK taking the arena? No, my hands are real strong. You take the AK. You know what I'm saying? You don't just go in there, I'm gonna punch him in the nose. It's not.
So what you're saying is he was going to train this way. How could you not train this way? This is what's available to both of you guys.
Even if he did, let's say I'm going into an arena and I'm going to face a guy who's going to punch me in the face, and it's a fight to the death. Do I want the gun or do I want my fist? I want the gun. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't really. I'm not saying that, oh, I knew he would, so I did. I'm saying I'm here to win every last dollar. I'm here to prepare to my absolute best ability. I have a lot staked on this. I have my rep staked on this. I have a lot of money on this. I'm going to fucking win. So I'm not going to go in there if it's within the rules of what we decide. I'm going to do it. I'm going to learn from the tools that we have. I'm not going to just show up. And there's some people that, so are you going to practice or train? Yeah, obviously, these dumb questions. No, I'm just going to show up for the most important match of my entire career. I'm just going to show up, wing it, hope he's not that good. No, I'm going to take this super seriously and do a really good job, make sure that I win, or do my best to win, I should say. So, yeah, and the other thing too is, yeah, you can have a lot of stuff prepared for you, but you're going to have to be able to implement it in real time,
right?
Without timing tells, within a cohesive strategy. And so, think about how much time and effort I spent, and think about how many hands I fucked up. I fucked up a lot of hands. Mm-hmm. There were plenty of videos on YouTube of all of the various fuck ups that I made along the way.
How's it feel, Poppy? How did it feel to be on the other side of the fuck ups?
What do you mean?
Normally, right, a lot of things I hear is, oh, Doug talks about the hands, right? But it's very rarely that someone starts breaking down your hands. I haven't seen many breakdowns of you playing the hands and them maybe critiquing the play. Because I hear some people say, oh, I don't like my play critiqued. And obviously you were the man for doing the hand breakdowns for a very long time on YouTube. So how does it, did you watch that? And what do you kind of feel when you watch those vids? Are you just like, fuck, I got to get better here?
Well, honestly, I enjoyed them. Sometimes I would just try and find YouTube videos of people, breaking down hands I played because I wanted to see what they thought, or if they'd run sims, or just get some feedback from hands that I had played. I don't really care because I'm not holding myself to an impossibly high standard. I know I'm going to make errors. During the challenge, Negreanu would tweet, another session, I didn't make any mistakes today. And I think, how the fuck is that possible? I know I made 15 mistakes today, Maybe he thought the bar for what a mistake was different, but I was constantly making mistakes. And I was making costly mistakes, frankly. One thing that in my game is I tend to call a bit too wide, and Negreanu leans towards under bluffing.
Yeah, so we could see that, yeah.
So there was a natural counter in some sessions where he didn't bluff that much, and I called too much and got owned. And that cost me in a lot of situations. Maybe if I'd done a better job of that, I would have won at 12 or 13.
How are you coming to that conclusion? So when you're in this situation, and how can you come to that conclusion in real time, potentially, that this guy might be under bluffing today?
Well, I didn't try and go that way. Mm-hmm. I'm not. Maybe I phrased that a little bit incorrectly. I wasn't trying to exploit him by overfolding. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is, if equilibrium call threshold is X, I was calling wider than X.
And that was just a mistake.
If anything,
okay.
When if anything, the other side would probably, from an exploit perspective, be better. So in a way, if he under bluffs, he exploits me. Mm-hmm. Well, not in a way, he does. If he under bluffs and I overcall, he exploits me. So I think in some situations there were spots where he did under bluff and I did overcall. And as I got towards the end of the challenge, I started to do a bit better of a job this is something that I had to personally work on. Like, hey, sometimes you have to fold. Sometimes you need to make a disciplined laydown. Sometimes you have to just fold, Top pair, you can't just always put it all in. Sometimes you have to be willing to let it go in some spots. And so I kind of implemented this thing where if I wasn't really sure, I would put in some extra folds than I would normally do. Let's say that I would normally fold 0. Maybe I throw in a quarter, or I would normally fold half. I throw in 75. Basically, whatever my instincts are in a spot, just fold more, because maybe it's a rare problem for pros. I don't know. This sounds more of a fish problem, to be honest. But whatever the line is of what I'm supposed to call, I just throw in some folds. And so then what I would do is if I had a really big spot, I would take a second and I would say, okay, I'm going to do this amount of folding. And I would usually it'd be a bit more. And what I would do is while I would play, I'd write a note down on the screen so I knew what numbers I was doing on the screen. Mm-hmm. For some hands, for bigger spots. And then later I could say, okay, well, I folded 25 here, and then look it up and see what it was supposed to be. So
you're not what you're saying to people is you're not a cyborg. You don't know all the frequencies on the rivers of what you should be calling and folding in all different situations. So most times you try to come to whatever you think is an accurate solution for those. And then after the fact, you then take those hands and say, okay, well, in the future, I got to remember that. But there's so many spots and examples and situations that you can have a good idea in a lot of different situations, but there's going to be a ton of unique things that come up that you're just not able to do in real time.
Let me give you an example. I forget if both these hands were versus Negreanu or one was in a practice match, but I think they might have both been versus Daniel. Oh, no, actually, I think it doesn't matter. One of them was. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, I played this hand versus Daniel. I opened 4 deuce. He called. The flop was 4-3 deuce. He checked. I bet. He called. The turn was a brick. Let's call it a jack, queen. It's an irrelevant card. He checks. I bet. He check raises. I call. River is an 8. He jams, and I think I'm gonna have to always call this. I don't really have that many 2 pairs that open, right? I'm not opening 4-3 off, very high frequency. Might be 0 depending on the stack depth. I'm not opening 4-2 off, 3-2 off. So I don't have that many 2 pairs here. It's a rainbow board, so suited combos are cut even further. I'm so hot.
What do you have? 10s this hand?
No. Okay. He had a straight. But okay. the point is, I just thought I had to pure call, and I called, and then the solver said, actually, you're supposed to fold here 60 or 70% of the time. Okay.
So you had the 4 deuce then, right?
I had the 4 deuce.
Okay, never mind.
I think he just had ace 5.
Hand. Okay.
Yeah. So then I'm in another hand that I played against. Was it 100 or 200 at WSP for some other reg? Mm-hmm. And I opened a call, and I had the exact situation. I opened 4 deuce. He called, and it was 4-3 deuce. I bet. He raised. I called. Maybe it was. It was very similar. I didn't have exactly 4 deuce, but maybe I had whatever it was. I had 2 pair. The turn's a queen. Barrels. I call, and there was an 8. And I think to myself, oh, I know this spot. I let this go, and I mixed in some folds, all proud of myself. Run it, and it's pure call. And I'm looking at it. What the fuck happened here? And then I realized it's flop check raise versus turn check raise. So versus flop check raise, you have to call it down. Versus turn check raise, you don't. Because the turn's more polar, the flop blocks more value. You're just gonna have stuff like that. I fucked up both those hands. One of them I made I called way too much, and the other one I folded way too much. You're just gonna constantly be making mistakes. Think about it like this: play 25,000 hands. You're gonna make 1 pre-flop decision every hand for sure, and then sometimes 2. But that stuff you're not really gonna mess up. You have charts and stuff. But then post flop, you're gonna get, on average, 1.5 decisions, maybe 2 decisions, depending. I don't know what the average ends up being. 2 decisions post-flop on average. That's, we're talking about 25, 50, 75,000 decisions that you get to make in a challenge. You're simply going to butcher so much. And you're going to butcher it publicly. You're going to butcher it, and everyone's watching, and then Showdown, and then people be like, ooh, I don't like that hand. I wouldn't want to play it like that, or whatever they think. That's tough. That is tough. I don't have any ego on my plays, though. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. If I made a play and it was wrong, I don't give a fuck. I just want to not do it in the future. Right. So I actually enjoyed seeing the breakdowns from other people.
Yeah, it makes sense. You're not defensive about it, like, oh, fuck you, you're right, like, you're wrong, I'm right. You're more like, oh, thank you very much for helping me. Like, sure, you could have been maybe nicer about how you delivered the information sometimes about some of the plays, but I feel like most people, if they do critique your play, a lot of people don't feel like they're qualified to do it. And then other people that do, they usually say, well, he probably had a good reason why he would have did this because he's Doug. So you sort of get the benefit of the doubt that you had a pretty, at least like good explanation maybe for what you were doing. But, I think a lot of us, and I guess you hear people in the chat, right? They're saying, oh, the programs are gonna, they're killing poker, destroying poker, and I don't see it that way. I see it as more of an alteration of understanding poker and a different way to learn, and different strategies are out there, and people are still making a lot of mistakes in the game. So what's kind of your observations after being in the trenches and experience it this way? What are your thoughts on that idea?
Well, I think that this stuff is really terrible for poker.
Mm-hmm. Terrible in that what? Like in what way?
Well, look, the reality of any strategy game is, as it gets closer to solved, it puts a real damper on it.
Mm-hmm.
And poker is a strategy game, so that's going to happen. This will happen to all games. It's not something that's going to be unique to poker. This is something that's going to happen across the board in many different game types and many different games. And you just have to live with the reality, which is, as games become more solved, we need to either know those solutions or not play, or be okay losing.
Right, or play for fun, or find softer games. I mean, I think that's what the applications now. There's the ability, if you take on that risk, to find a lot of different game options out there with the clubs and with the unions. There's 15-man clubs. There's 1,000-people-man club. There's all these bigger and smaller clubs out there. So the ways to play are still out there. You can still play live tournaments. You can still play live cash games. Like, I don't think those games are going to be these unbeatable places where you can't win in the near future. What do you think?
Yeah, but I do think if you're not taking it seriously and you're not trying to learn from resources that will put you more in tune with what solutions are, you're going to eventually start losing. Mm-hmm. It's just a question of when. You can ignore the fact this is happening, right, keep playing, but then you're just going to slowly get worse compared to everyone else, right? Or maybe most people don't, because people are fucking lazy, Joey. And one thing I've learned from Heads Up No Limit, coming back into it and looking at a lot of the people playing, even all these people are supposed to be great, they fucking suck in spots. They make mistakes all the time. So the good news is that even though solutions are coming a long way, you're still playing as people, and people are just terrible at everything. People are so bad at everything that they do that the bar is so low that you can definitely make money, and there's definitely room to grow, right? But the way that you do it has to be sort of specific and disciplined, and you have to be willing to put in the hours and the hard work to get there.
So what would be a suggestion for you out there? What would that path look like on how you can improve your play, become a better player with the current training methods available?
So I think I'm going to have to go ahead and say upswingpoker.com is a really great learning resource for people to step their game up, and I'd recommend heading over there and checking it out. In fact, my first session versus Daniel Negreanu, I did a video walking you through all my spots. If you want to check that out, you can do it for free over at Upswing Poker. All you have to do is sign in with your email. Check that out, totally free. I'm going to be putting some more content in the lab to teach you guys how I played against Daniel Negreanu. Hopefully teach you some spots. Should be a good one. Check that out over at Upswing. But seriously, now that the plug's out of the way, I think...
Shout out to POLK Launchpad. Just launched today officially.
Of course. Absolutely.
Took flight. Dr. GTO Dylan will be on the show on Wednesday. Shout out to my man Dylan, new Upswing course, the best way, debatably, to learn Introduction to Pop-Up Omaha. Right now, links in the description below. But bam, let's go. We got that out of the way. Okay.
Absolutely. So anyway, there are several ways to learn. Basically, you can either try and play around with solvers yourself, or you can learn from someone that has done that themselves. But there's going to have to be some baseline in solver application. I think at some point, if you're taking it seriously, you're going to have to get a solver, and you're going to have to run through and look at the way spots function and change the variables in the solves to be able to see for yourself the way that it shifts ranges. One thing I did a lot this challenge was I would play a hand against the bot or the trainer, and it would say you fucked up. I'd open up the sim, and then I would just play with constraints, understand how it changes things. And that was a big part of my learning method, was that, why is this here? What is this? What does that do in turn? So this is a weird hand. Why would it? Oh, and then start to kind of put things together. For one thing, as an example, in Heads Up No Limit, oftentimes pairs with an ace kicker get used a bit different in a lot of situations. Either maybe they raise for flop on the flop for value with the second pair, and it seems counterintuitive. Why would I want to raise with ace 5 on king 7-4, stuff like that? Why would I want to raise turns in some situations? Not that hand specifically, but some of those hands get selected as well for turn raises. They're oftentimes the best bluff catchers. That's kind of obvious. You only block value, you block pairs, you block strong hands that have an ace in them. But you should see those things kind of at play, and you can see how they function versus different raise sizes or different bet sizes. Oh, well, what about versus quarter pot? What about versus 2/3 pot? What about versus all this stuff? And you can change that and see the way that it shapes your range and the way that changes the way you're supposed to play. And that's a big part of understanding and developing. I think one of the things that you learn from a lot of studying is not just what was correct in a spot, but then things you can kind of take away to apply into other spots, and that's really important. Understanding, all right, well, when I have this kind of hand, I need to do these kinds of things. For example, in a lot of the delay spots, the solver is going to like taking some of your worst turned pairs and check raise bombing them, and then maybe jamming some rivers, paying out the run out because you block sets and 2 pairs. And that's a concept that's going to be really good for people no matter what, right? Most people just don't bluff that spot because it's scary and
very
they could
scary.
Have some. It's not even scary. It's honestly just a print bluff spot. There's actually one of those in the video I did on YouTube recently.
Oh, okay. I saw the middle pair top kicker check raise before. Why exactly are you check raising a7 on that type of board texture? Because I remember one of those got to Showdown. I can't remember who did it. Most likely you, I'd imagine. And I was like, well, that was a very weird hand to kind of play there. So what's the reason behind that?
Well, sometimes it's kind of some of the stuff I was saying before, but sometimes those hands, they just unblock bluffs in some of the most pure ways, right? So if I have a7 on king 7 for deuce or something like that, and you bet the turn, I only block value. Only. I don't block any bluffs. And I don't know if it would pick that hand in that turn specifically, but just as an idea. So you unblock a bunch of bluffs, and you do block a bunch of value. And you also deny a bunch of equity on certain board textures against hands that, some kinds of draws. And then typically you're going to be checking. And then if you think your removal is good against the range sides to bet, or you need some candidates for check call, you have a reasonable check call candidate in those lines. So yeah, they function well in equity denial and then bluff catch lines. A lot of the ace-x pairs tend to function really well. And there's some spots, for example, in single raise pot where, let's say it checks down a river, and there's the board something like king jack 7 4 deuce, and you have ace deuce. This could be a really nice check raise candidate because
this is one of those 15x raises you kept making, right? He bets like 1,200, you make it 16,000. We're like, what is this guy doing, man?
Yeah, I love those spots, man. Those are great.
I can tell.
You also get to bluff them a lot. You get to value bet them a lot. They're very capped. Your bluffs are going to block the card that give them sets and 2 pairs. So your bluffs are nice. Yeah, those spots are sweet.
You kind of okay. So one thing I want to ask about specifically during the challenge is that one thing we sort of take away from commentating and just watching and not seeing all the whole cards was that the level of aggression on later streets was like a different sort of like planet of what was going on. You got you, who is the biggest bluffer in the entire world I've ever seen in my life, play a match. And then you got Daniel Negreanu, who did not seem to be as aggressive outside of like 2 sessions where he kind of showed down a few river bluffs in a row. And we're like, oh, okay. But overall, he didn't seem to really use that big bet aggressive strategy on later streets, while you implemented that essentially from the start. So can you talk about what exactly that means in terms of a win rate or just playing against or sort of how you think about that?
Sure. Well, large sizes, in fact, what makes No Limit Hold'em the best variant of poker that everyone loves and agrees is superior to other variants is that you're not limited by something completely mundane, we'll just say the size of the pot. You're not limited by such annoying rules. Disgusting.
I get it.
So you can bet as much as you want. And in some spots, one player just has a lot more good hands than the other player. And by using large sizes, you get to bluff more. And I know to bad players that sounds counterintuitive. Bluff more, but I'm getting a bad price. You're not worried about the price that you're getting for them to fold. You're worried about the price that they're getting to call. The bigger the price is for them to call, the more they have to fold. And thus you get to win the pot more. It's just sort of the basic way that poker functions. So in some situations, one player gets to use really, really large sizes because they just have a bunch of really strong hands the other guy doesn't have. So when you have a value bet, you want to win every last chip. I definitely had some hands versus Negreanu where I won all of his chips that he wouldn't have gotten in the vice versa spot. And then when you're bluffing, you want every last chance for them to fold. And I'm sure I got some bluffs through that he would have called versus normal sizes. So basically, because of that, these bet sizes end up being really good in a lot of different spots, and there are so many different areas that you could be using them. But they are complicated and they're hard to implement. And when you say things like Doug is the biggest bluff I've ever seen in my life, that might be true, but I don't think I'm bluffing that far off of equilibrium. And I think that really just tells you something, right? When you watch me, it seems I'm spewing and I'm punting off a stack here or whatever else. If we go through and look at all the hands after, and we're going to get the hands. They're going to send the hands. I don't know when. I'm hoping this week, but we're gonna get the hands, and we're gonna get to see some shit.
Wait. We're gonna get to see both players' cards in this situation.
Well, I'm gonna post. I'm gonna make this promise here on this pod. I'm gonna post the graph. Okay. Red line, blue line, winnings, EV. We should be able to convert all that stuff over, and I'm gonna post the exact graph so you can see what it looked like in terms of those. And then I'm also willing to share stats in what I did. I'm not willing to put my whole sample online. I don't want to put, basically, I would just be putting out other people's work, and I don't want to do that to some of the guys I worked with, and I think that's just a step too far. But I'm willing to share any data in terms of what I had in hands or what my overall frequencies were.
Doug, I got an idea.
Okay.
I got an idea, Doug. You just said something, and this is the idea. This is the greatest. This is one of the greatest marketing ideas I'm going to give you, Poppy. Okay. Basically, you make a video just like Dan Negreanu, and you make a parody of that video for this exact course right here, and you say, in this video, I'm going to share things that I've never shared before. Because that's basically what you just said right there. So you just do the same parody, run the same ads on YouTube for the course, and then bam, a banger. There you go.
That's a great idea. Same music.
Okay, so you're gonna make content.
Same high def table.
You're gonna put some free content out there. You're gonna put some paid content out there. You're gonna dive deep into this challenge. You're gonna kind of stick around and play around with what you're seeing, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm just so interested in the hands. How much money do you think I want on Showdown this challenge?
Well, you inspired a new piece of merchandise called the Red Line King, buddy, because
nice.
It seemed to be
that's inspired by me.
It's inspired. Well, it's inspired by the Red Line Kings out there of yesteryears. But I was watching this guy. I go, man, we got this guy's like a Red Line King, basically, right? And I was like, oh, this should be a piece of merchandise. So we made sure it said Red Line King on there. So I used to love the Red Line. I basically learned the Red Line from you back in the day when you told me to be more aggressive at playing poker. So, but yeah, how much do you think you won? Because I would imagine it's.
I don't know. I think it's probably a favorite that when the cards got shown down at the end, I lost money. I think that's. So when we look at who had the best hand when the money went in, or the hands were shown, I think that I probably lost there, right? That would make sense.
Well, you won a lot of that. You ran above EV, and you won a lot of those big all-ins. I mean, I didn't look at the final total, but Daniel was going on and on about how much better you ran in the all-ins that got shown down. So maybe if you factor in those, and I don't know, it just seems to be that you won a lot of really large pots by making this guy fold and on those later streets.
I think it's if I'm just guessing, and we will eventually know, but my intuition here is that I won about 1.5 to 2 million in on Showdown. Something that range, 1.5 to 2 million.
What do you think that says to people out there that might not understand that? What do you think that might say about your game or your strategy, or where maybe there's room for improvement in a Negreanu's game or someone similar to his game?
Maybe 1.5, maybe it's more like 1, but it doesn't super matter. What that basically says is that my style wins when someone folds, and is less reliant on having to make hands and less reliant on having to have the best of it. So I think typically when you have non-showdown winnings, high non-showdown winnings, you tend to have less variance, I think, because you're not so handcuffed to having to have made a bunch of big hands. I'm more likely to win hands from bluffing. And when you're calling, I'm more likely to catch his bluffs as well. But it also can come from spewing. I mean, if you call a bunch of spots way too wide and then make some spewy bluffs, you're going to get red line, but you're going to get it at the cost of your money. Mm-hmm. I don't think I had too many hands that I put in that category. When I look back on this challenge, I feel really good about the bluffs. There's a couple of bluffs that, in retrospect, I didn't love. But overall, the bluffs were good. They were balanced. There was a good frequency of them. I'm actually a really big fan of the bluffs I ran. Some of my biggest bluffs I got stacked in. Solver really liked the combos I picked out. I think I ran really, really sweet and good bluffs in this challenge, and I think that, or I'm very proud of the way that I played those. It's the calls, man. Some of the loose calls were just
King Jack, King High, King. What do you have? Ace Deuce that hand or something like that? I think it was. He river an ace. He had a top pair, weaker kicker. He shoved. You call it like a King High. It was like Ace Queen something. I can't remember the exact run out there for that specific hand, but that sort of came to mind. I remember that hand. That was. But do you think there were many hands where you just call down super light, or I guess when
yeah, 25,000 hands. There's probably 5-ish times I called a stack on the river that my hand was just a pure fold. So you can chalk up that 130K or whatever it would be, 140K just to mistakes. And then there's probably another couple 100K worth of spots where I called at too high of a frequency. Maybe that's even 200 or 300K worth of spots. So, I mean, we're talking, 5-10 buy-ins that I lost from making bad calls that weren't bad calls because, oh my God, Doug, Daniel's never bluffing here, but just bad calls in theory. I'm only looking at it from a theory standpoint, basically, in terms of these spots. So, yeah, I think something around 300, 400, 500K lost in bad calls seems reasonable.
Yeah,
something like that.
And I think a lot of people wonder when you talk about looking at the solver or trying to play by theory, what your goal is to try to execute the outputs that the solver and the coaches are giving you. That's your goal when you're trying to compete here, right? You're trying to execute what the outputs are.
Exactly. And it's so people might say, well, why don't you just fold? Well, you don't know which are the good folds and the bad ones. When you're in the spot, you don't know what the solution is. So you have to think, well, what's the frequency here? And you don't know. I don't. When I run the sim, it says fold every time. Okay, well now it's obvious. Thanks, sim. And then people say, yeah, just do that. Well, in the spot, you don't know if it's 50 or 25 or 0 or 100. You just have to use things that you know to try and derive the optimal strategy. And when your natural intuition leans towards one direction, it's really hard to separate from that because in a lot of other spots, my intuition is extremely sharp, particularly in bluff spots. I think I pick out those accomplished really well. Value thresholds, I think, I'm quite good. A lot of. I think I'm very sharp in a lot of different ways, and I think my single raise pot game is fucking fire. I think my single raise pot game is so good, so tough, so good, so balanced. My single raise pot game is just amazing. It's just outstanding. My imposition theory pot game I think is really good. My opposition theory pot game I think that I made some mistakes.
Real tough spot. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I made some, especially as you get deep, it gets tough. But I think a lot of my betting ratios were really sharp, and most of the spurious looking bluffs of this challenge, you run them, they're just good bluffs. I mean, just look them up, they're good. There was a couple that weren't. There's one where you'd have no raise range, but if you did, you would use my combo. So that one is very break-even bluff. But basically the point of the matter is the bluffs were really sharp this challenge for me, I think, overall. It was the calls that we definitely needed to improve on. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Right. Do you feel like as the challenge went on that you got sharper at identifying those situations to avoid a big mistake like that as it went on? What was there a moment, like what did you see something and you're like, oh, that makes sense, I need to sort of think about that in the future in this types of situations, or was it just like, how'd you sort of come to that?
Well, so it became clear to me when I was looking at what percentage of hands I was winning over the course of this challenge. It was constantly moving between 51 and 54% of hands that I was winning. We played pretty similar pre-flop. He opened a little bit tighter than me, I think. But, it was a situation where I was always winning more hands. So I knew that in some spots, that means that there has to be some situation where either he's not bluffing enough, or I'm bluffing too much, or I'm competing with too much. There has to be some reason that number it looks like that, because when two people play that are roughly even, that should never really happen. Maybe one guy wins a little bit more around 51, but there should never be a situation where you're winning 47% of hands in a match. It just can't really happen unless the other guy is spewing wildly. And I don't think we really ever got to that point. I think we played a little on the loose side, but I don't think we were ever in just full blown the floodgates are open, Doug's dumping stacks. We never really hit that point. I think where the calling thing really hit me the hardest was with the second time I got to $1 million and then I lost 400K in that session. I felt pretty bad afterwards because when I ran it, a lot of those calls were not good. They were just mixed folds or pure folds or whatever it was. And I started to feel, man, I've played so well. I'm winning so many hands. I'm picking really good candidates in all these spots. But then just these spewy call downs are just costing me huge in all of these spots. And frankly, have cost me all fucking challenge. If I had not called down as much as I did, I might have won at 12, 13, 14 big wins, whatever it would have ended up being.
Right.
So I'm going to make a real committed effort to not overcall in these spots. And before I make a big call, stop, pause. Okay, what's my instinct here? Okay, we're going to fold a little more than that because you just know you're going to overcall these. And that actually worked pretty well. Because I still had spots where I looked at it and I said, hey, I think I have to always call here, or do I? Yeah, I do. And then I would call. But I would just take a moment, because there was a lot of times where I got fucking 2 pair, bro. Just let's go. Whatever you bet, just pick a number. We'll see what you got, and then we'll move on.
Uh-huh.
And then eventually, you realize, oh, that you're supposed to be folding some of these sometimes. So, yeah. I think that was the session where I really realized, look, if I can just make sure that I get this in line, I'm gonna really be crushing.
Yeah, after that big session, I mean, that was a pretty somber. We started watching the post-match interviews like a day before that, and then we see you, and you're on there, and you're like, I fucking hate this, right? Like, I just lost $400,000 doing something I didn't want to do. I was like, God, I feel bad. I mean, I sent you a pretty long message. I was like, I've been trying to let you focus on the match. You're like, you're going to have Doug on the show. I go, listen, I just want this guy to do his thing. This is a big spot for him. This is going to be like a forever moment, one way or the other. We're going to talk about this forever. So, like, I know how much work this guy's doing. Let me leave this guy alone to just focus on the challenge. But I had to send you a long message there because I was like, God, I felt the pain, right? I just felt like you're like, fuck me. And during that moment, you got to be kind of thinking, like, am I really going to lose? Like, it most likely ain't going to happen. You're still up $600,000 against the guy. But you hit the million mark. Everyone's kind of going celebrating. The session before post-match, you were like, this is great. And then you have that come out the next time. What kind of thinking that in retrospect, right? What were you feeling during that moment?
That was the only session that felt bad after.
Yeah.
I think most of the session, there wasn't any of this. There's sessions I lost. Especially, actually early in the challenge, I was down 200K. We were a few sessions in, 3 or 4 sessions in. And Negreanu was just giving me the fucking business in some of these runouts. I'd have the second nuts, he'd have the nuts. He'd have 4% going there, he'd bang it off. Talk about running bad on the post game, and then I was downstairs. I think I was down 200 or 250, and I was talking with Caitlin, and I said, I can't even feel bad. I'm gonna turn this around. It's just a matter of time. You have losing sessions. You're always gonna lose sessions. This isn't something where I'm gonna just win every session. This will turn around. I am gonna end up winning this. I don't feel bad about it. But that one particularly, first off, it was so many fucking buy-ins. I lost almost 10 buy-ins in a session, which is a lot. And when it's at your highest stakes that you're playing, it's extra a lot. Mm-hmm. And then when I was just running it and just getting outputs and realizing that these were spewy, it's just, now you're getting into, okay, you lost 10 buy-ins. You should have lost 6, maybe 7, but definitely not 8, 9, or 10. That was on just you spewing off. That felt kind of bad. And especially when the challenge was so locked going into that session, so locked. Mm-hmm. And I think it was important to play disciplined at that point because, and actually this is a conversation I haven't had at all, which I think is pretty interesting. I saw a lot of conversations, what should Doug do down the stretch? And I saw these idiots, he's going to fold out. What the fuck? I'm not going to fold out $1 million fucking dollars. What the fuck is wrong with you? I'm going to give out $1 million to lock up some side bets that I'm going to win anyway? What is wrong with you? The most important thing for that spot is to make sure that I have such a big lead that I can play normal. Mm. Because normal is going to win at a good clip. If I don't have a big lead, then I'm going to have to play modified in a way that lowers deviation, right? I'm going to have to do that, and that's what Stallgate happened with that. But basically, okay. but basically, okay. I wanted to have the lead where I can just come in and play my fucking game and not have to worry about who's up on the side or whatever.
Right.
And when I was at $1 million, I could do that. But unfortunately, my game is spewy, and I paid the price with some of those call downs. And then I started to look at it and think, okay, well, I'm up 600 still, so I have a good lead. We're not in any danger at all. But it's not a stone lock anymore. It's not, wrap it up, boys. We got this. We're taking home the win. This is, we're super likely to win, you know? Mm-hmm. And that little difference it changes how you play a bit. And then I think I even had another loss after that, or loss or two, and then you're thinking, man, this is only 500K now, or whatever it got down to, 480, I forgot the exact number. This is not slam dunk territory, and I have money on the side where I laid a big price. So I had to really think about that and plan around that. And if I had just not been so sputastic in that one session, I wouldn't have had to. I think that's what really hurt. It wasn't the loss itself. It was the fact that now I had to change my play.
What it seemed like to me, right, from watching and kind of seeing your attitude in the post-match interviews, from how you were going on Twitter, seems like after Christmas you kind of maybe stopped going so hard in the lab. You stopped talking about studying so hard. It just seemed like maybe you lost a little bit. And obviously makes sense. Christmas time goes down there. You got a lead already. It's already been about 2 months into the challenge. So that was sort of what I saw. Did it actually take place, or were you just kind of like, because you kind of stopped talking about the challenge for a few days and you stopped sharing your thoughts, and it seemed like maybe you're a little disinterested in what was taking place?
So early January, I was still, really, really going hard. I think after some of the peak wins, we definitely rested a bit. I started to feel just throughout January super burnt out. I was already starting to feel it December, to be totally honest. Just I'm burnt out. I don't enjoy playing, and then the studying is just getting just brutal. But I still was hammering away in early January. Then by mid-late January, it was just getting especially tough, and to grind through it, especially when it was so like I would win. And then when I was at $1 million, I'm thinking, okay, I'm not even looking at the study anymore. And then I lost 400. And I just,
and you said back to the lab.
Back in the fucking lab. And then I'm sitting there just grinding out sims and just hating it. But yeah, it was I didn't go as hard as early, but the thing I think people have to remember too is I started in August, and I prepped hard.
Very
from
hard.
August.
You were challenging people every single day on Twitter. You're playing. Yes, I'll play anybody. Who wants to play? I'm ready to battle. Good, bad. I don't care who you are. Come play me on ACR if you want to battle. So yeah, you were working when the challenge was announced. It seemed like you went into Doug POLK hyperdrive mode, where you were locked in the lab, playing, studying, battling. I go, this guy.
Oh man.
They're like, is this guy like? What is the? I go, this guy's not good. Someone said, what's the odds Daniel beating Doug? I go, I don't see a way this guy is going to beat Doug. Doug's been prepping for this like this is his life depends on it right now, man. This guy's like.
Well, if you ask Nick Schulman, it did.
Oh, yeah, man. You were. I think you showed people how you became. How do you get to a top YouTube channel? How do you start to be involved in a top company like Upswing Poker? How do you get to a point where you're one of the top heads-up no-home players in the world, and the number one player during your time beat a guy like a Sauce 1234, some consider to be also one of the greatest of all time as well too. It takes a special kind of dedication, obsession, work ethic to get there. And do you feel like when you look back on this progress, was it, you sacrifice some things along the way, and you maybe do some things that you talk about not enjoying doing, and do you feel like it's worth it when you look back on it to put yourself through that type of grind and to deal with that type of emotional swing?
Yeah, I think that with where I was at 6 months ago, I think that this was great. I'd had a long time off playing poker. I had played almost no poker in 18 months. Maybe I had one session in a year and a half or something around that. It's something in that vicinity. And I had not played at all. So this was a nice test to see, am I longer term not going to play? Is there a chance that it comes back that I like the game and want to play moving forward? So that aspect was good. It's also COVID. During COVID, there's not a lot going on.
Yeah.
So you're a little bit more at home anyway. And then, it was nice just to have a challenge, and it was nice to finally get to take a step away from what am I going to do with my life, man? I have to think about that all the time, for the last couple of years. And I know what I'm doing today. I might not like it, but I'm doing it. There's a difference there, which is nice to get the tap into. And then I think what, obviously the winnings are great. That too was nice. But I think the most important thing is getting just that feeling of being good at something, being world class is something that I hadn't gotten to feel in some time. And that's rewarding as well. Just working really hard on something and getting to perform at a high level. I think that's something that that I miss getting to do. So yeah, it was great for the time. But this is gonna be the last one. We're not issuing any more heads up challenges, especially now that I'm gonna have to lay 9 big blinds. What do you think about the Landon Perkins bet?
I think Landon got a little bit too excited doing commentary with me every day, and he's like, I don't want to do commentary with Joey again. I want to play one of these challenges. So he was pretty. I mean, listen, the kid's obviously, you've talked to the kid a little bit too. He's a go-getter. He's ambitious. He wants the challenge. He wants to make a lot of money. He wants to show people he's got what it takes to succeed. But yeah, I mean, laying the 9 big blinds per 100 against Perkins. Now, listen, Perkins yesterday posted in his bedroom. He's on vacation in like an island, and he's studying.
I love that.
Do you see that he's studying pile solver on his phone? He's got his girlfriend in the background, draped out over the ocean, the sun. I go, there's no fucking chance this guy's gonna. What are you talking about? There's no way this guy's gonna take this seriously. He's running businesses with hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Like, he's gonna play Landon. But if Landon gets him fired up, like Landon's been tweeting at him, he's kind of, maybe taking a little bit of more of that aggressive kind of like, I'm going to crush you, old man approach. I could see Perkins getting motivated. I just find it real hard to believe that for that period of time, Bill's going to be, roaring in the lab, like working with the neural networks, calling you up and saying, Doug, what am I doing wrong here? I don't know. What do you think about this challenge?
Okay, so I'm very uniquely situated to have an opinion on this challenge because I have played both of them about 1,000 hands over the last few months. I think I played Bill more like 1,500 or something. I'm not sure the exact numbers, but I've played them both a chunk. So I have a feeling for kind of both of their games. And what immediately jumps out at me here is the fact that a non-heads-up no-limit pro is laying 9, which is just the audacity to lay 9. I don't know what my edge would be on Landon if we played. I would assume I would be winning at 5+. I don't know what it would be. Probably not 10, but I would be beating Landon. And I can see some of the mistakes he's making. He seems to be a good player. I'm not saying I think he's bad, but he's not a heads-up no-limit pro. This is not some guy that's a heads-up high-stakes sicko crusher that's just stepping in and laying 9 because he's a fucking boss. This is a kid who's coming up in the streets. He's got some wins under the belt. He knows a thing or two about the game. He's put in some hours. He put in some time. He's pretty sharp. I think for where he's at in his career, he's extremely good and has nowhere to go but up and has the passion to really go for it. But man, you're laying 9 fucking big blinds in a game you're not even a pro at.
Well, tell the people what that means, right? Translate that to for the people out there who don't really maybe understand how big of an edge that is or what that might entail.
Okay, so I beat Negreanu for 9, roughly 9.4 EV big blinds over the course of this challenge. So let's just assume that that's my true win rate. I'm sure if you ask him or you ask me, we'll think it's not. But let's just assume that's the win rate, okay? Because that's what happens. So I think that's the most fair. Then he needs to be at that to break even. So he needs to be the Doug of the Doug versus Daniel match to break even. Okay. Now there are other things at play here, right? Of course, Bill's going to be a lot worse than Negreanu. I've played both of them. Bill is substantially worse than Negreanu. And the way that Bill plays it's a blessing and a curse for Bill. One of the good things for Bill is not really bound by what you should be doing in a spot.
Yeah, we heard that. We heard that during he did commentary for the last session. Yeah.
Bill is not bound by that. Okay, and what's good about that is it lets you really go for it situations that end up being good if you run it later, or it lets you maybe take some unconventional lines, or it lets you put people in spots they're not prepared for. But what's bad about that is you can really lose a lot of big blinds per 100 if you're just doing dog shit. And with Bill, there is a healthy amount of both of those things going on for sure. So I look at this match. I look at Landon. Landon's kind of spewy. Honestly, in some ways, he reminds me a little bit of young me in a way. A little bit in a way. He's feisty. He's firing. He's running bluffs. He's trying to call people down. But he gets a little more. He gets a little more out of line than I do in spots where I don't think it's super necessary in my experience playing him. He's the kind of guy that gets out of line. He loves spots and he loves getting in there and he loves. He's got some passion for it, but he loves getting out of line. And Perkins fucking loves getting out of line. So I can only imagine the kinds of hands that are going to go down in this challenge. This is not going to be similar to me and Negreanu. I think Negreanu doesn't get super out of line that often. And I don't think that I'm someone that gets way out of line either. I think I try to be in the realm of equilibrium. Maybe you think I get out of line a bit, whatever. But neither one of us are. There was a hand that I saw played by Barry Sweets and
those guys are those guys
and
are
Linus.
Nuts. Yeah, those guys.
And
are
I
crazy.
just posted this hand, and I said, in our heads-up match, we have 0 of the 2 people needed for this hand to happen. Right? There's just neither. And I just don't think there are going to be hands played in that match that you would just never even get a whiff of in the match they played versus Negreanu. Not even close. So you look at that and you think, okay, well, can Landon beat 9? Yeah, Landon can beat 9 in that if Bill plays in that fashion. But if Bill actually gives a fuck and puts down the laptop or puts down the sky balcony deck with his girlfriend draped out across the ocean and says, I'm going to focus
takes a
on
day off
pocket
from the plane
threes.
trips, maybe, the trips
Sorry,
across the
Blazarian,
ocean.
we're not going sailing this summer. I need to learn about pre-flop 3 betting.
Laura's like, yo, we gonna go visit the friends down in Cabo. He's like, I gotta work, but Doug's giving me a 6-hour pre-flop lesson today. I gotta go work with him.
So anyway,
Yeah.
Can he beat 9? I don't know if Bill can. I don't know if Bill can. I think really this might come down to how much time is Bill willing to spend. And of course for Landon, it's can he shore up some of the smaller leaks in his game. I've looked at his stats from when we played in ACR. There are some spots that he needs to clean up.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things that I don't super love the way that he approaches it from a size and frequency perspective. And then there's also just some hands that he's going to have to really be careful getting super spewy versus Bill Perkins. Because if you get really spewy, Perkins might take you into the dungeon and you might never get out. Because 9 big blinds per 100 is a lot. And if you think you're just going to put Bill in... I had a hand versus Bill yesterday. I was putting together Super Bowl squares, and Bill said, hey, let's just play some 100 or 200 on the side. I said, Bill, I'm drinking a beer. I'm putting together this gambling pool, so okay, I'll play you on the side. So I'm just one-tabling Bill Perkins at 100, 200 while I put together a spreadsheet. And we're just playing in spans. And we have this hand where the board is queen, 6-6, queen. So I open, he calls, queen, 6-6, check, check. Turn queen, check, check. River 9, check. I bet. He check raises me. I 3-bet him. He 4-bets. I call super fast, by the way. And he just has the jack high bluffing. That's just not a hand that you would have seen happen in the challenge versus Negreanu, but I would anticipate lots of that type of stuff happening in this thing.
He had a jack.
Yeah, I mean, and what he should be doing, well, it doesn't really matter.
Okay, so we can get that hand. Yeah, that's an interesting hand.
Sure.
No, but I understand what you're saying.
The point I'm making is if you try and get fancy with Perkins in some of these spots and he thinks you're weak, he will fucking fire. So I just and Landon likes to get fancy in some spots. Honestly, I'm kind of excited to watch this. I think it's gonna be really fun, and I'm interested to see sort of the approach that both have, and it really is going to come down to can Perkins take this seriously enough to overcome this 9 big blinds per 100, because if he does hunker down and really cares and really wants to win, then I think he can do it. I would say that I think that odds are probably that he's not going to, though. Yeah. That seems to be.
Well, I think the people will be interested in watching the challenge, because I think Landon he's already kind of starting, and he knows how to share his story, get himself out there, and sort of like bring people along for the journey and for the experience. So I feel like he'll have people pretty riled up by the time this takes place, scheduled right now in May. We don't exactly know the exact date it's going to take place, but do you think people are still going to be interested in watching the match?
Yeah, I think there'll be some interest. I mean, it's obviously a lot different than the match that just happened. Of course, it's it'll be notably smaller, but yeah, I think there will be some audience that will find it fun to watch. Challenges are just fun.
They are very fun.
I tuned into a little bit of the Galfond chance one just a few times. It's hard because there's just so many cards, and it's hard to care when there's that many cards, as you know. Wow. Also, the bets, it was always just kind of small. It was not even
keep betting the pot. What are they doing? Why don't they bet more than the pot? Yeah, I get what you're coming right.
But I pulled some hands and thought about it and watched some spots, and it was another classic Phil gets down a bunch of binds and then just wins every stack for forever type spot, you know? The classic Phil.
Classic Phil Galfond, the Galfond Challenge king over there, 3 in a row. So are you going to, you mentioned on Twitter actually that you might want to coach someone for a challenge. So I hear a lot of talk. I know MJ, who worked with Daniel, he's thinking about doing a challenge. I think he's going to play Ike and Dan Smith. Shout out to Dan. Shout out to Ike.
Sorry, who's playing?
MJ.
Okay.
MJ Poker.
So here's my read on MJ.
Okay.
All right. And I don't know MJ at all. But MJ strikes me as someone that does a lot of posturing. And there's just some different examples of this that I've seen a lot of. For example, and for those of you that don't know, MJ was one of Daniel's coaches. And I know nothing about MJ's ability as a poker player at all. I've never seen him play. And that's really kind of my problem with him, is that, hey, you're the expert, you know all this stuff, you're talking all this shit. I've never seen you play, never played anybody. You know what I'm saying? You have to have some kind of track record. I saw him calling out Limitless and apparently wanted to play Limitless, and then he tweeted, where are you at? I'm getting lonely without you. I was still looking for it. Dude, Limitless is going to play you. What are you smoking? You think that he's over there dodging you? There's obviously he's going to play you. He thinks you're a spot. Or he tweeted the other day or other month, sorry, I think it was in December. Hey, I really want to do some heads up live challenges. There's a short list of people that won't play, but everyone else, I'll play you. And then a bunch of people say, let's play. And then, a week or two later, oh, these are some people that want to play. But, there's COVID. It's not really great during COVID. Dude, there was fucking COVID when you tweeted it. What the fuck were you? Did that situation change? You know what? It's time for some live poker, guys. Let's fucking go. Okay, I'll play you live poker.
Yeah, I think he used to be with Live at the Bike, right? Yeah, he used to do Live at the Bike stuff. I think Live at the Bike commentary. But you're right. I don't really know too much about him outside of that. I had a few conversations with him so far, and we had a few discussions, and maybe do some content together in the future. We get to learn more about his story and about who he is, and let's see him play. But yeah, I see. Didn't you challenge him as well to 4 tables?
Yeah, I said, I love playing 4 tables, and you have to immediately make decisions. It really improves whatever. He said it in some fancy way. And I said, okay, man, you know what? I'm withdrawing my balance soon. Let's just duke it out. I'll 4-table you want to, and we can play a session, on my way out, basically. And they said, I'm not going to be ready by then, something. But this is what I'm saying. The guy has never played anyone, to my knowledge, anyone at any reasonable stakes at all in any capacity, and then is challenging people. At some level of some number of challenges, when people say yes and you don't play, it starts to turn into, hey man, are you actually going to do this? Are you actually going to play? And also, what qualifies you to be some heads up no limit pro that has never played heads up no limit, at least online versus good people? I'll tell you what, Joey, and I hate to do this to my American brethren, but if you've played heads up poker in America, you really haven't even played it. The competition level is just so low. It's just full of just fucking Americans, just terrible players. It's just such a low bar for heads up. This guy hasn't even played Americans. He's not even played the American reg pool. And those guys suck. You're going to go international? You're going to go international? You're going to take on some of the top players in Europe?
Yeah.
How about you take on people in the city of Las Vegas? Not even willing to do that yet. So it just kind of turns into, at some point, what is your shtick? Play somebody at something. I don't know.
I don't want to play you now.
I don't get it. No. I'm done. Please.
You're not.
No.
You don't. Okay. Now you don't want to play.
No more heads up challenges for me. I'm tapped out.
Okay.
But you know what I'm saying? It feels like a lot of posturing to me, and maybe he thinks heads up is cool, or maybe he is good. I'm not saying he's bad. I just have no fucking clue, and I've never seen him play, and no one really has, to my knowledge. So what's likely? This guy has never played, but is just the best thing ever, or he's not that good. It seems more likely to be the second thing to me.
Well, I guess we're gonna find out if these challenges go down. You seem real fired up about this guy, so okay, I'm okay.
Well, it's just so silly to me. It's just so silly to me to call people out and then not play, and then it's just very clearly posturing, in my opinion, to say live poker. Let's fucking go. Oh, sorry, COVID.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll hear from MJ. We'll see what he's got to say about this.
Is it still COVID? Okay.
Guys in the chat, I see a lot of people out there. Thank you very much, Chin. I see a lot of regular people. They're talking about the 500 like edible, Doug. They say at 500 likes, we, sometimes we take edible around here during the stream. We put the graphics on. The rockets start flying. The animals.
Well,
are punching.
I really
the air.
hope we don't get to 500 likes right now. That would be terrible. Guys, please in the chat, do your part to make sure we do not get to 500 likes. That would be a disaster. It would be a train wreck for sure. No one likes a train wreck, especially the chat. The chat wants good, clean, old-fashioned fun. Please don't hit that thumbs up button. Do not do it.
Jesus Christ.
We are not eating an edible today. Absolutely no chance. Do not hit 500. Please. Oh, no. They're getting close, Joey. They're coming in. Oh, we hit it. Oh, no. Oh, fuck. I tried to prevent that. I tried my best.
Okay. We get one. Doug, they said commentary, me and you. The chat can't imagine what commentary with me and you would be like, Doug. Can you imagine what commentary in the chat would be like me and you?
I think it'd be good. We'd have you do play-by-play because you get hyped up.
Yeah.
And then I'll do the color. You know,
just knock it fucking dead.
We'll just do 1-2 punch. You just keep working the jab, boom, cross. Keep working the jab, boom, cross. In comes Bill Perkins with the coffin, some dancing knee, boom, jab, 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 jab. Hit him with the cross. Uppercut missile strike incoming. That's exactly what we need.
Okay. We could do that. I feel like it'd be good. I'd be setting you, be knocking him down.
For
Boom.
sure.
Doug, what about that
down.
bluff? You're like, bam, here it is. Right. Okay. Yeah. I see.
I'm down. If you want to do at least a stream or two when this heads up challenge goes down, I'm in. Or other challenges or whatever. I'll do. We'll team up for a stream.
So wait, Papa, are you gonna
fun.
stick around poker a little? Are you? Because normally when I talk to you after these challenges, you're like, I'm getting out of here. I'm done. I'm like, okay.
I'm done playing.
Okay.
I'm done playing. Okay. Maybe I'll do a couple more Bill Perkins heads up sessions for the lulz, but yeah, I'm done playing. But I don't mind being around. I love the game of poker.
Good.
You know, it's
Yeah,
given
same.
me everything. I'm so thankful for it.
Same.
I don't want to seem that I hate the game itself. I don't like what it's becoming, and I don't like playing. But I'm still gonna be in the streets.
Right, you'll still be around. You'll still be talking about what's happening, covering something goes down or some news happen. Right, you know, some kind of breaks down, and well, that's good. That's really. I think a lot of people out there really enjoy having you around, buddy. And I think it's more fun to make content when you're around. Run some ideas. You know, what I'm saying it's always a little more fun, kind of in the streets, and when you're doing the people that you like. And I guess one question, kind of looking at a lot of questions that we have here. One question a lot of people had for me, and I'm very curious about this too, is how did your actual, during this challenge, like your entire approach to life shifts and the way that you're thinking about your life? And I imagine the processes are going to have to change because you have a business and I imagine you like to be active with what's happening with that. And you have a lot of people that you talk to and a lot of things, investments going on and gambling and crypto and politics and the fucking mayor and another YouTube channel. You got a lot of things happening, kid. So
I forgot the mayor thing even happened, man. That feels like a lifetime
I know,
ago.
it really. I mean, you know,
Jeez Louise.
Chamath going for the whole impeach the governor kind of thing in California. I wonder who inspired that. But yeah, how does your life change when you take this challenge on and you're in the daily grind and every day you're like, you're thinking about it the next day. How does your kind of day structured when you're in the midst of the challenge?
Well, day to day was pretty normal. Just wake up, work out, maybe do some cardio, whatever I'm doing, hit the streets for some sims, grind the trainer until midday, grab a little lunch, watch some StarCraft, get back in the streets. On game day, we play at 2:30. Usually, right before we play, I would try and chill out a bit, maybe go in the hot tub, take a shower, just think about things, think about what was most important, the way I was going to play. Mm-hmm. Some of the most important concepts that I wanted to make sure I implemented on that day, and then play. And then afterwards, if we played late, I would wouldn't start until the next day, or I'd send a video to my coach so he could look through all the hands and prep some notes. And then on days we played short, I'd run some sims after. Or if I lost a lot of money, I might run some sims after. It's a lot easier to run the sims after, right after you lost a lot of money. I don't know what that is, but it some way makes you feel a little bit better, you know? Mm-hmm. You have a big wing session? Let's come here for tomorrow. But we lost 250K a day. Okay, let's see what happened on the turn of this 10 hand, you know?
Yeah.
So it was kind of like that. And then on the off days, it was similar, but just in the afternoons I would be doing whatever else. So it was.
So how did you allocate your other responsibilities that you had in terms of, because turning off that ability, how do you focus? Because you were spread out for a while and then you go for rather narrow. So what kind of tricks do you have to be able to do something like that?
Well, I really picked my battles. I knew during this I would have to pick my battles. So for starters, I completely stopped making content. gotten this on important during this. I started to, put some health stuff, some of my longer term goals on the side, try and eat reasonable and get some workouts in here and there. But, it's okay to not be just crushing on the health front right now. We're going to really focus on this game. I put my CSGO team on hold. Sounds like a joke, but it's not. Basically, we just started playing with no practice because we were running a lot of practices beforehand so that I could have time to study and play. And, I just kind of structured it in a way where everything that I didn't need to do, I didn't do. Caitlin obviously doing all the stuff at the house. And then obviously I have an assistant. And then at Upswing, we have really good people in place that we hired, like Mike Brady, to run things that maybe would need more input from me if I wasn't doing it. But basically, I just try to get to a place where my job is I play this challenge and I prepare for this challenge. And everything else can be done by someone else because that stuff can be outsourced more or less. But my focus and my quality hours are going to be spent on that. So I really structured it in that way, I would say. And then Sundays, I took more or less off. Saturdays, I would usually do a bunch of prep work for the coming week on new strategies and sizes and stuff of that nature. And then on Sundays, I would usually take it off and watch football. It's good to have one off day in the mix, kind of try and recharge and get ready.
There wasn't much like, during COVID, right? A lot of people are on lockdown, not leaving the house. Sounds like you just kind of hung out around the house during most of those days and built a system and a routine that you felt good doing and that you felt healthy doing as well.
Yeah, I found a good balance where I was once in a while maybe I go for a walk or something or try and go outside and do something that's COVID friendly, but more or less I stayed at home and just duked it out. So yeah, that was kind of my day to day.
Yeah,
it wasn't glamorous, it wasn't.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I guess maybe some people look at that and they say, "Oh, that's not." But I think that's how a lot of high performers do things. Where whether you're an athlete or anything like that, like there is some going out aspect, right? But right now it's just so unique as well with the lockdown and some people saying, "I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm not going to go do anything. I don't want to risk it. I don't want to go out of the house. I want to be safe." So, do you feel like with kind of coronavirus also happening with the challenge, like do you feel like now you're sort of saying, well, my life feels like it'll be a lot different moving forward than it may have been in the past, and now I need to sort of figure out, well, what kind of structure might that be?
I just don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to. I just don't know. The blessing and the curse of this is, I had something that I really had to focus on, and it was great, and now I don't, and I'm gonna think about what's next. I'm gonna move. Probably Texas, maybe Florida. I want to go somewhere that I think would long term be better to raise a family. I think that's pretty likely for me in the near future. I'd like to be somewhere that's, I'm not going to go play poker. I'm not going to capitalize on a lot of the things here in Vegas that make sense to capitalize on. So I'm going to check out some other options and move. And then probably focus on just some health stuff again for a while I kind of get back into the rhythm of being a normal human, and then just work more on investing. I mean, this last 6 months or whatever for me has just been insane. I've won. I've won it. Honestly, I just won at basically everything that I've had money on. It's just one fucking thing after another. Do you think Timex will make free throws? Yes. Okay, that won. Who saw that coming? All right. Do you think Biden or Trump's gonna win? Okay. Well, all the polls say Biden. Okay, Biden. That happened. Okay, the election happened. It's Biden. Who's going to win, Biden or Trump? Biden. Okay, that was a curveball. Biden won. Okay, what about, going back a little bit farther, WSP getting canceled, coronavirus case numbers, even this challenge with Negreanu, obviously a bet the side as well, they actually had in it. Some of the other pieces and stuff that I had going on during it. The fucking Super Bowl, I just shipped in on Tom Brady. Let's fucking go. Boom, Tom Brady. I mean, this has just been such a really great, very lucky actually stretch for me.
Yeah.
And I'm obviously I did in a lot of spots, but I think I also got in with the best quite a bit, and it's been a really profitable last however long for me. And obviously the Bitcoin run has been fucking awesome too. So I mean, I'm ready for some time off and to really consider my options for everything, and just trying to make decisions that I think are best for the long term happiness in my life. And I don't think that's gonna be poker. I don't think it's gonna be content either, Joey.
Yeah.
Content gets too grindy, bro.
And I mean, definitely is. I've been
so grindy,
deep in the investing lab lately, and I'm like, oh my god, this is kind of. It seems a way like poker in some ways, where you don't need to make content and you don't have to know what's happening in all these different areas of the world, and it's just a different sort of thing. And I think the content grind is a lot of fun in some ways, and also it does get really grindy when you're constantly being creative, and you're dealing with the feedback, good and bad, and it can be emotional sometimes as well, depending on how much you put out there about yourself, and then people have feedback and they deal with it. So there's a lot of pros, a lot of cons potentially come along with it as well too. So you seem like you're maybe past that point of wanting to handle those emotions or whatever pressure that comes from being in that sort of world.
Well, I think it's just something you gotta take a day at a time.
Yeah, you never know. You could come back with a roar. You never know.
Yeah, I think so for sure. I don't want to get into the business of saying what I am or am not going to do next. Really, I don't think there are things I think I'm probably not going to do, but nothing's for sure yet until I move. I try and figure out what's important to me, and I figure out what's the next step moving forward. I'll be doing something.
Yeah,
I'm always doing something.
You're right.
I'm sure for people that want to be kind of following what I'm doing or what I'm up to, maybe there's certain things you like quite more, some of the video stuff or the poker or the Bitcoin or the videos or the whatever I was doing, political recalls. The umbrella is large. Whatever you liked what I was doing, I'm sure that if you want to follow me and what I'm up to, I'm going to be doing something, and I'm going to always try to have ideas and put myself out there and be willing to fail and be willing to give everything 100% that I have to be successful with it. So stay tuned. I'm sure at some point here we'll have a next chapter.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I think we all look forward to it out there seeing it. And do you have some takeaways from this challenge that you bring over into whatever it is that you might want to do next? Is it something you realize, hey, I really like this. Maybe I want to do more of this, or, I don't like that. I don't want to do any of that.
No, I don't want to even. This subject is.
Yeah.
I needed to figure it out for myself, and we'll go from there. And
now you're going to be doing a lot of these interviews. You're going on like a media tour, a podcast tour. You're going on a bunch of podcasts. You're going to be talking about the challenge a lot. You mentioned earlier before we started that you're in that phase of you're actually appreciating it, and you're sitting back and you're going to feel what that's like instead of looking forward and looking what's next. You want to embrace and enjoy and just you worked hard for this, right? And it's been a long time since August, September, October, November, December, January, right? You worked your ass off, so now you can kind of take in and feel that relief and feel that joy and feel that excitement that comes along with accomplishing something like this for yourself.
Yeah, we're doing the Victory Lap, the media Victory Lap tour, doing a bunch of podcasts and trying to talk about some of the things that are important to me through this or the challenge, and just taking a moment to really appreciate the fact that people want to have me on to talk to me about what happened and get my opinion on things, and live in the moment a bit of being thankful for that and what I accomplished and being proud of that. So that's definitely in the cards for now. Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at.
Cool, man. Sounds like a lot of fun. Sounds like you're in a good spot. I'm very happy to hear you feeling a lot better because, like I said, for a while on these streams interviews, I got it. This guy, he's not really enjoying this right now. So, but
I mean, dude, I was run the fuck down running Sims every day, and then I come on the pod, and you don't look so good. You're looking a little bit bored or run down or burnt out. Maybe you should consider not doing the things you have to do.
Thanks, That's how it be sometimes, Poppy. That's how it be sometimes. So what's up with you and Negreanu, right? So you and Negreanu came into it. You got a beef. You guys talked it out during it. You guys seemed to kind of put things behind you. You guys went on the podcast together. You had a study session beforehand, before the last session kind of took place, where you guys hashed things out. So where do you and Negreanu sit moving forward, and how do your relationship change throughout the challenge?
I think overall it's in a good place. I think it's in a fairly healthy place where we can keep it cordial and respectful, even if we disagree on some subjects, which I think is ideal. I think when I look back on the beef that we had in the past, I think a lot of it stemmed from some of these issues that some of the things that he said online, I think, were a bit disrespectful to the online community or the online player pool, and we don't have to go through all of the things for the millionth time. But I think a lot of it stems from that, and I think, if I don't think that it's necessarily a situation where we'll never disagree again or we'll never argue about something. Right. But kind of where I'm coming from is if Negreanu says things that I disagree with, I'm gonna say I disagree with that, but we're gonna keep it more cordial in our disagreements. I don't think we want to go unless you're stalling again, then I don't know what I'll do. But I think we'll keep it more reasonable moving forward. And I think it's good it went this direction. I mean, look, like we had a lot of fun with some of the Negreanu stuff along the way, but we went too far in some spots, and I think that especially with some of the subjects, when you believe that you are in the right on them, I think that it even weakens your point to kind of lower it to making fun of things that he's done in the past on sort of a personal level rather than talk about the subject matter itself. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know what it'll be like moving forward. I don't really see us being friends. I think we'll just kind of have a casual chat here and there kind of thing. But no, it's good. It's good overall.
Somebody in the chat earlier, they asked about the photo, the Brady. Shout out to Brady. He found the photo where you and Caitlin are dressed in the same exact outfit, Doug, and you guys are holding the dogs. You're in the red flannels. It's around the Christmas. It just, I guess, I don't know. It was. Then somebody sent me. 2 people actually sent me it with Daniel's head on Caitlin's body, and it's you two together in the photo. So I don't know. The memes are getting a little that were created from this challenge were
pretty OOL, if you ask me.
Yeah, they were pretty funny. They were pretty out of line. It was. Yeah, and I guess moving forward for poker fans, right? Do you feel like I feel like it feels like this re-energized the community, and it's an opportunity for some people to maybe capture that and to kind of bring those people into the community or into the game or into the world or following along. So what kind of impact do you think this will have long term or even short term potentially on maybe the viewer experience or the fans out there or even from the content creating side of things?
Well, I think that this challenge was one of the most watched poker events of all time. Mm-hmm. I think after the main event, I think it would probably be next. If you wanted to compare this to any single main event, I think it would be number 1. So, we're looking at the most watched poker event ever. Mm-hmm. I think that that's going to have some impact in terms of long term, the way that people view things or might think about things or might want to put content forward. And it was kind of the most insane thing is this is probably the most viewed poker event ever. And it didn't have hole cards. That's just so fucking wild to me that happened. That's just really something. So I don't know what that will change event to event, but I think it'll give people some ideas moving forward as to what things people do like to watch, and maybe we'll see some more heads-up challenge type spots in the future because I think they're fun. I think there's something about the idea of a heads-up challenge that's, the heads-up for rolls. Mm-hmm. That I think people have always enjoyed watching. There's a drama element to it. There's a personal element to it. There's a, every time one guy wins, the other guy loses. This is not. There's no both players just break even. There's when you fold, you lose, and that guy wins. When you call and the hands are shown and better hand, the other guy loses. It's so direct and personal that I think maybe this format could find some other spots for some challenges. We've already seen that, right? The Landon Perkins thing is obviously inspired by this. And I have to imagine some of these MJ challenges, which will totally happen, are also sort of in the same vein. Mm-hmm. I kid. I don't know. Maybe they will have. I don't know. I'm just fucking with MJ at this point. But you know what I'm saying? I think that has had an impact on the idea of a challenge and watching a challenge. And I think that'll have an impact moving forward for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, you're always there's a lot of things going on out there these days. There's people in chess. There's people in every single esports that's trying to establish itself as a. It seems like all the new games you mentioned. You got a team in CS:GO and Call of Duty has a bunch of things going on. All these things are all they're all growing, and I sort of wonder where poker fits in that. And I know we need a younger generation to attract more people that are sort of in the younger demographic. And I think that's what's great with Landing kind of coming up is. And, there are a few younger guys who are kind of coming over from esports and getting into a little bit more into poker as well, too. So hopefully we'll see more of that. And I know if you stick around, that'll be good because people love seeing you talk poker, break poker down, make some jokes, make some memes, kind of get in the mix with that, too. So,
yeah. The poker age thing is something really important that I think that we kind of need to talk about. I'm pulling up some of my stats here as we talk. I think that there's a real threat of poker's longevity when you just look at the breakdown of the age range of the average person that's watching poker, and I look at YouTube. So none of my audience is under 18, which is good, kids, don't gamble. And then 12% is 18-24. 40% is 25-34, basically in my age range. Mm-hmm. 27% is 35-44. So 18-24 is 12, and 35-44 is 27. So over two and a half times as many people who are, 35-44 versus 18-24. And when I started making YouTube videos, those numbers were a little more close to each other. And so what you're kind of seeing is, or you see this stat, 11.4% of the audience is 45-54. So almost the same amount of people are 45-54 that are 18-24. Mm-hmm. What does that say about the younger people and their interest in poker? It's not there as much. Right. And there's a lot of factors. I think a lot of it actually was Black Friday. I think the government, I think Black Friday has a much bigger impact on that than solvers do, or how solved the game is. That doesn't impact that nearly as much. I think that Black Friday played a really huge role here, and that's why we see no one that's younger than 18. We see not many people that are 18-21. And Joey, I don't know about you, but I see it when I go out. When I go out somewhere and there's a 21-year-old guy or 18-year-old guy, I'm not really expecting them to recognize who I am. But a 30-year-old guy, mm-hmm. I see it. I see they're way more likely to recognize who I am or want to talk to me or say something or whatever. So I think we're looking at a situation where if we want poker, that age range is still so young overall that we have many years ahead. But there will come a day where it will become very important to try and embrace, the days debatably today, the younger generation of people that could be playing, mm-hmm. and try and have poker have the sort of the view of poker in the community be what it should be, which is it's a strategy game of wit and cunning and learning and execution, and not that it's just some kind of gambling game that's illegal because the government banned it. I think that it's really important. Joey, that tweet you had the other day was fucking fantastic. The one where you tweeted. I'm paraphrasing. You want to say it? I think
it was basically because I've been researching this a lot. I'm trying to think, how can I put this into content? How absurd the laws are in terms of online poker being illegal, but you can gamble on the national anthem being 2 minutes 23 seconds. I can put $1,000 on that, but I can't play online poker. And you take a look at how can I do the NBA 2K My Team or the NBA 2K My Career or these Top Shots or Robinhood or any of these things. You could do that, but you can't do online poker. To me, it doesn't make any sense. It's
and the anthem is the perfect example. That tweet was just it was so well constructed. It's yes, you can bet on how long the national anthem is going to be today, but no online poker. Let's draw the line. We can't have you just betting on anything.
Yeah, I don't know where you start to even attack that. I don't know who you got to go to.
Oh man,
it seems like it is making some trends. Michigan just has online poker now, and West Virginia had online poker. That's going to be coming on soon. So we're seeing more states legalized, but it's moving at a much slower pace than sports betting. Sports betting has that collaboration with NFL and NBA and with all these other major corporations who are going to benefit from sports betting being enabled as well, whereas online poker doesn't necessarily have that big picture public support on a collaborative level like that. So I think that's why you see online poker in the state it's in versus sports betting getting pushed through and DFS getting pushed through. And I don't know the corporations or companies or influencers who can have an impact on that outside of PokerStars or outside of WorldSeriesPoker.com and Caesars and everything associated with them. But are you in the know with that? Are you familiar with sort of how people out there could even have any impact at all and maybe shifting the way that online poker is seen or the regulations are currently?
Well, I have no impact on the regulations, and I think it's very difficult because in a political system like the one we have, your issue is only really going to win if it becomes a majority opinion within one of the two parties. And the poker playing audience is pretty segmented, and so we're not really a block. We're not all in one party and we all have similar views to everything else. We're all just poker players, right? Which is, that's great. It's good for the game. It's good for the diversity of the game. But in terms of being one strong group that votes together, there are not millions of poker players that all band together to vote on one issue for one candidate that supports poker. It's just spread out and it's not an important issue. So it's just not really going to get the airtime or the care from, politicians at the national level. And then it's also mildly unpopular, I imagine. I mean, you look at religious people probably don't like online gambling. I assume that there's a good number of liberal people that think it takes advantage of poor people that aren't going to like it. I assume there's going to be your Sheldon Adelsons of the world, may he rest in peace, that don't want it because they want to make more money from you at his casino.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a lot of those, by the way, but they're out there, or we're out there. But anyway, the point is, it's not a uniform block, and it's not a lot of the population that cares. And those two things just make it really hard to get anything done that's really substantial. And then also, I think it's good we're seeing states take these steps towards legalizing, but it has just been so slow.
Yeah.
Okay, Michigan went live, awesome. So now we have Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Delaware, and New Jersey, right? I think those are the 5. Great. That's only 5 states, and it has taken years to get 5.
Yeah.
And they're not even all connected together. New Jersey and Nevada have some interstate compact, which, by the way, if 2 states were going to get a gambling thing done, it would be New Jersey and Nevada. But anyway, they can't even play within that pool together. How far are we away from real U.S. nationwide poker? It feels like we're still pretty far away, and I'm not sure that there's that much of a movement to really try and make it happen at a national level.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems to be from people I talk to with the big poker sites outside of America that they either are going to enter the market soon, and I don't know if that's because they think that there will be a massive law change and maybe something is overturned. I don't know exactly what they think about that, but it seems like GG Poker is going to try to do that. Poker King's going to try to do that. They're going to come in here, compete with Poker Stars, compete with maybe they partner with World Series of Poker. I'm not sure if them and GG are going to have some sort of relationship on that level. So yeah, I guess the most optimistic market right now in terms of growth seems to be the Poker Bros and the applications. I know Poker Bros is taking things more seriously this next year, and they're going to try to grow their brand in America. Obviously, that's a tricky thing because
what's a poker bro?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Honestly,
exactly.
I'm not even trolling you. What is a poker bro?
You don't know what Poker Bros is?
No, I don't even know what that is.
Oh, it's like, well, I mean, it's like a whole world.
They're doing a great job growing their brand, Joey.
Well, they I guess they try not to.
It sounds super fucking legit. Poker Bros. Oh yeah, that sounds legit, dude. That's gonna be fucking big, bro. This fucking Poker Bro stuff, bro. Fire, bro.
You should look into it. You'd be intrigued by the inner workings of these things. Yeah, it's basically the clubs and the unions on there. People start the home games. The home games join together. People have these big unions where they have tens of thousands of people that are playing in these clubs, and they take a rake. They have agents that that handle the money. They have finance people, accounting people. They run it like they're they run it like they're real operations. And
sure.
Yeah, there's a bunch of these apps right now: PP Poker, Poker Bros, X Poker, all these different things like that out there.
Cool.
So yeah, you're not paying much attention to that market.
Oh no, I'm really in there. I play on poker. I'm more of a Poker Gals guy.
Poker Gals.
I play on Poker Gals. Yeah.
Let me get some questions out here from the chat, guys. See a lot of people out there. Doug, you want to give some shout outs out there?
Yeah, let's get a shout out. First out, I want to
bam.
give a shout out to all the people calling for Doug Polk to become president in the chat. I appreciate you guys. I see it. Don't worry. Our year will come, 2040. That could be the year. You never know. You never know what year it'll be. We'll bide our time. We'll get in the mix when we can. After that, Wally W, Upswing Bro, welcome. Always good to see some Upswing members in the chat. Love to see it. Not too many of the familiar faces from my chat. You got a little bit of a different crew over here. Landon, of course, in the mix. Landon, we talked about you earlier. Yeah. And then
on Twitch as well. 4Bet Me Please, TGC, Pappy Van Winkle. What's
Wayne,
up, guys?
Of course, Wayne as well.
Wayne Chiang. Shout out to Wayne Chiang.
Yep, we're actually joining his pod too.
Cool.
Or the Live
yeah.
of the Mike pod, I should say. Yep.
Getting after it. Shout out to Landon. Landon, we were discussing the challenge earlier. Mike Chambers, Eden Rocks. Got a lot of people out there in the chat. Thank you guys for tuning in. Doug, a lot of people are wondering, and me included, is that you never sat out during the challenge. So we were wondering, do you just never? What's the? Do you not? We use the bottle. What's happened? How do you never sit out? You didn't sit out one time during this challenge, except maybe the time that he was stalling, and then maybe one other time near the end. I think it was maybe for maybe it was a misclick though. But what was the?
I think there was one time I had to get Advil because I had a headache. I think. Might have been when he sat out though, but I think I sat out and I got some Advil once, and then yeah, I definitely sat out during the stalling. I don't know. I mean, we played so little. We played 3 times a week. Is it that crazy just to sit there for 4 hours on those 3 times a week? It's not that much.
Not really, but 30 some times you played. I thought that the guy maybe one time he's like, oh, I just got it. You just were like, I'm not leaving. I'm not sitting out. You never quit early. Why didn't you quit early one time? You just kept playing till he decided to leave.
Why? Look, so for starters, I'm trying to get in as many hands as possible. He only wanted 3 sessions a week. I said that's fine. I want as many hands in those sessions as possible. So why would I end sessions? Every time every time I end a session, it's that much longer the challenge goes on.
Right. So you were just trying to get over with. You'll play as long as you wanted to, and you were just trying to get through the challenge.
Well, within reason, I'm not going to just play until, if you wanted to just blast through a 15-hour session, I probably wouldn't just do that for sure. But he never played long enough where it was an issue for me.
Right.
And I play well when I play longer sessions. I get really locked in. I think I play good in that spot anyway. And then I also want the challenge to be on the faster side if I could choose. So I had a lot of reasons to want to play, longer sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I don't tilt at all. I really don't think I tilt at all. So, if I'm up or down or whatever, I don't care.
Is there any sort of advice
I
you
do
give
think
people? How do you not tilt, right? What advice would you give people out there who say, I tilt massively? Like, how does this guy do this?
Pick a different sport. No, I mean, it's like I tilt massively. What should I do when I play poker?
They might be saying, I know I can overcome it. I know I can get past the tilt. What do I got to do, Poppy? Tell me what I got to do to overcome this tilt.
I've said this before in the past years ago, but every time something really fucked up happens, I think this is my time to prove how tough I am, because everyone will deal with this. And if I react really well here and stay clear-headed, this is my edge. This makes me money. My opponent will have to deal with the exact same thing at some point. If I want to be the guy with the edge, I stay clear-headed here and I make my best decisions. And you build that into who you are. And that's it. Every time something bad happens, great. This is an opportunity to show how fucking strong you are. I'm not sitting here every time I break a flush draw bitching about my flush draw. There's no what. You're gonna miss most of your flush draws. That's how it works.
Right, yeah.
It's not. It doesn't gonna do anything for you. It's gonna change your mindset. It's gonna make you timid. I know I'm gonna hit the right amount of everything, or more, because again I have to factor in how lucky I am, and I'm gonna go fucking get it. That's your attitude. So when you get stacked, you're gonna have plenty of other spots right around the corner. Get stacked. Let's see what's up next.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think, why do you think people have a tough time? Why do you think they have a tough time dealing with that? Obviously, you see Daniel, and he's talking about how lucky you are, and maybe the site might be out of line a little bit, and all these things like that. Why do you think certain people aren't able to?
Be out of line.
So what are you saying? He's
yeah,
like,
I'm
we got to
sure
do an
Caesar's
investigation
out
on
of
the
line.
site.
I'm sure Caesar's just, all right, we're going to have to rig this. We had to pick somebody. Who's it better for poker to rig it for? The guy that doesn't play poker, or one of the most famous poker players ever? Let's rig it for the guy that doesn't play anymore. The fix is in.
Yeah, exactly. Why do you think a lot of players share that viewpoint as well? Why do you think that they think that way?
That it's rigged? We're gonna do this?
Why do you know the whole luck thing? The idea that
luck
they don't see it the same way you do.
They probably saw the hands, and there's just no doubt about it that every session played during this challenge was very lucky. And I think the proof's in the pudding. I don't know, man. What do you want to say about luck? Yeah, there were some lucky sessions for me. There were some unlucky ones. There were some sessions early on that were, I talked about this a bit early on. We had a session where I called through with Queen 9 suited, and I flopped a straight. I think Jack 10-8, and he bet the flop. I call, turn brick, barrels like. Oh no, sorry, he check calls the flop. Sorry, Queen Jack 10-8. He check calls, turn brick. He check calls river king. So I only lose to ace queen. And ace queen's not supposed to take this line mainly. It's supposed to either bet or full turn a lot actually. Well, at least some. It calls turn a lot. But the point is, it ends up in bet lines as well. And I jam, and he has ace queen. No comments in the post game about how lucky that was or unlucky. It was just a thing that happened, right? Or the hand where I had 6-4 suited and I call a 3-bet 7-3-2 all clubs. He bets, I call, turn offsuit 5, I hit my straight. He barrels, I call. River offsuit 6, he jams, I call, and he has 9-8 a diamond. So he just backdoored the higher straight. I only get stacked on the offsuit 6 here, and I have. Oh wait, hold on. I have whatever it was. Yeah, I think I had. Did I have the 6? Yeah, I had the 6. So there's 2 cards he stacks me on. I'm not going to complain
everyone
about
gets
that.
lucky, right?
He had aces. He had aces versus kings 3 times this challenge, Joey. You're supposed to have had that happen 0.3 times in a challenge or something. He had it 3 times. One of them we were 3 buy-ins deep, and he got aces versus kings. He had aces versus kings 3 times. You know what I'm saying? And I had plenty of lucky stuff too. But are we going to sit here and be, oh, well, you had that luck, and I had this luck, but that was more lucky. It's just a silly combo. And also, we have hands. We had hands where I lost. In one hand, it was a really cool hand where I check raised the turn with Queen 8 on, I forget the exact board. But basically, I had a double gutter, and he called, and I ripped the river, and he called with the nuts. And I ran it, and the solver it was, what do you call it, 15-inch poker hard? Is that what you say?
It was a 15-inch poker hard. Locked
Okay.
in, yeah, exactly.
Solver was 15-inch poker hard for my bluff combo there. and he had the nuts. Are we not going to talk about how lucky that is?
Mm-hmm.
I had the nut best bluff combo, found it in game, ran it into the actual nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Is that lucky? That's very lucky. The vast majority of his range has to fold.
Right.
But he had the nuts. So not only did he have the part that gets to call, he had the part where you don't have to think you get to call. You know? Is that lucky? Yes. So how are we going to define luck in this spot? And that's why when he offered, we'll give it $1 million, I got unlucky. Well, what are you going to, are we going to, what's Queen 8, 10, 8? Is that lucky or not?
Yeah.
Right? Because it is lucky, but is it lucky by the metrics you want to look at? Right? What's lucky or not lucky?
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to consider lucky or not lucky in some of these spots? So, obviously, when you play 25,000 hands, it's going to be a lot of very lucky spots for people. It's just so many hands. You're going to have a bunch of real shitty stuff that happens. Negreanu obviously had some brutal spots in this challenge. I had some really brutal ones too. It didn't just go one way, you know? It's in the game. It's baked into it. And I think when we get the stats, I'm just going to, maybe I'll stand corrected. And I don't know all of his cards, right? I'm talking about my experience with my hands. I don't think that I got super lucky over the course of the challenge. I think that I had some lucky sessions, but you're going to have lucky sessions when you play 20,000 hands.
Right.
I had some very, very unlucky stretches too. It's just the game. It's all in the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does make for quite a nice narrative to talk about and discuss, and there really is no way to find out one way or the other if he's lucky or not. You kind of pointed out the absurdity of it actually one day by tweeting out all the hands that you played that day and where you won and lost when you won with the bluff and you lost with a big hand, and you're basically saying, look how lucky I am. I'm actually not that lucky. I'm going to win some, I'm going to lose some, and it's going to even out over the end of the course of the match. So it's kind of stupid to keep bringing this up and talk about it.
Let me give you a perfect example. The last session we played, right into the session, he opened 6-4 clubs, and it was 10-7, 5-2 clubs. So he flops an open ender and a flush draw. And by the river, he just has a pair of fours, a.k.a. his dick in his hand. And he tweets,
sweaty sausage.
Off to a good start or something, you know, with this missed hand. Or sup, and then tweet it. And then someone else, because I was shooting my whole cards, tweets sup, and then it's my hand, which was also missed clubs. Mm-hmm. So we both had missed clubs here, but I won on the river because of the line that I took. I'm not saying I think he made a mistake in the hand, but the point that I'm making is you can look at this as every time you miss something, you're unlucky. But that's, first off, such a waste of energy and thought process. And then second off, you can look at it as there's going to be luck here both ways, and someone probably will get more lucky at the end. If you really tallied up who was more lucky, it's unlikely to be exactly even. But who the fuck cares? We're playing 200 400. This is a big public challenge. That's the way poker works. I'm sure Negreanu has gotten very lucky in many important spots. I mean, look at his one-drop $1 million results. Not to say he didn't play well in those, you know, maybe he played fantastic in those, but anytime you play a tournament and it's a small field and you get second or whatever you get for $10 million, that's just, you just ran the hottest in the biggest stakes tournament that there is out there. So it's, you know what I'm saying? It's silly to get drawn up in or get caught up in who was how lucky. Okay. Yeah. Someone ran hotter, you know, maybe it was me. It could have been. I don't think I ran super hot this challenge. But if he did run in really low percentiles of things, he might have been more unlucky. In my opinion, I don't think that's that likely to be true. But maybe it's possible. I can't say it's impossible. But how are you going to measure it? And also, why does anyone care? It's just a narrative, you know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, why do they care about bankrolls? Why do they care about how much money people have? Like people seem to care about those type of things very much, and that sort of seems to be how a lot of media works in these other industries.
I actually think this is a little bit different. I think it was not the public as much who cared who was lucky.
You think more about just
I think it was more Daniel cared.
Yeah.
And I get where he's coming from, right? You know, you're coming into a challenge. You want to be competitive. You want to win. You want people to think you had a real chance to win this, and you feel like you're not catching a fair break. So I can understand kind of where he's coming from. But man, I've played a lot of heads up, and sometimes you just go through stretches that fucking suck.
Right.
They just suck, and you just have no hands. You don't win any stacks. You're always in the shit spot. It's always the guy's jamming, and you have a terrible spot. and then you're trying to just operate the best you can. And then when you do decide, okay, I have to call here, you look it up. They have some random hand. It was unlikely that, you know what I'm saying? In heads up, the bad stretches are especially bad because you play so many hands
So fast.
and you get so fast, and
Yeah.
you get so many big spots, and you're forced to defend things all the time. So you're constantly having just nothing a lot, and that's not. It's hard to get used. I think it's hard, and maybe this explains why Negreanu felt he was running so bad. He just always had nothing. Is when you go from playing in games where you play really tight pre-flop ranges, it's a lot harder to have nothing. But in heads up, you're going to have what people would qualify as nothing or not very much very often. That's going to be a fairly common hand. And so you're going to have to navigate those waters in ways that, take that into account and really make sure when you do have something that you're playing that successfully, and that when you have nothing, you're bluffing at the right frequencies. Those are just really important stuff, really important to have. I mean, I don't know all the draws that Negreanu missed. I hope for his sake that he did miss more than average, because if he got his hands and he just had the average number of flushes, it would be pretty funny. But again, who really cares? It's just such a, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
I think a lot of people, the heads up is so rapid, and you have queen 6 offsuit or queen 6 suited. You're supposed to 3-bet it 15% of the time. You get stacked. You get queen 6. You're supposed to 3-bet the next hand. You end up on the flop. You bet the flop. You're in a dice spot on the turn, and then you're rapid fire constantly. And I could definitely see how a more composed player, a more educated in theory player, is going to have a pretty big advantage. And of course, the swings are high, the variance is high, so you can still go crazy. And Daniel said that one day he played like a monkey, was splashing whatever, and he had one of his biggest winning sessions. So that's what's great about poker, is there are going to be days where you don't make the right plays, and you just do all the wrong things, but you have all the right results and you feel like a god. And some days you make all the right plays and you lose and you feel terrible and you're wondering, what happened to me, right? And you made the right plays, you just ran bad, and you got to, as a professional poker player, you got to be able to accept that and process that and get back out to the next session and forget that it happened and move on with your life and attack it like it never happened before in the past. So I think that right there alone, that is a very challenging thing. And you mentioned heads up specifically, which is that you're in uncomfortable situations all the time. And when you do make a big mistake, like, it can be pretty costly in those later straights, and you go back later and you're like, oh, I'm a fucking idiot. So it's dealing with all those things is a very emotional thing. And I could understand why a lot of people struggle with that.
I'm not sure if it ended up being the biggest part of the challenge or not. It had to be in the top few, but there was a hand where I made a questionable flop float and I backdoored a flush and I threw a pot and jammed the river, and he backdoored a higher flush.
Oh yeah, I remember that hand.
That's one of the biggest pots in the entire challenge. And it was, I think the flop float, if I'm remembering exactly the right hand when I ran it, it was just very marginally losing. So it technically only lost me 0.1 big blinds that hand. But I actually lost 230 big blinds or whatever it was. But you look at spots like that, was that unlucky? Obviously, right? But is that which luck are we putting? How much luck do we attribute that to? It's just so silly. It's a lot of it is just. It's just
Like,
that's why it's going to be so fun to actually have the hands and get to see a bunch of the stats. I'm really interested in what my win rates were in some different positions, and I'm interested to see if sort of my intuition about the challenge, which is, I think that my small blind single raise pot went really well. I think my big blind single raise pot went well. I think my in position 3-up pot went really well, and I think my out of position 3-up pot went pretty badly. And I wouldn't be surprised if my 4-up pot went pretty badly, especially in the big blind. But small sample in those spots, it's hard to say.
Yeah, a couple of 4-bet you had out of position where I think one hand you had like king queen, you let a jack high board. I think you hit a king and a couple of, I think one time you got stacked, one time you won a spot. It was, the 4-bet pots were not that interesting in most part, because oftentimes it was just check to the 4-better. They would bet small, the other person would call. Actually, I guess they did get a little bit dicey sometimes in turns and rivers once you got there, but a lot of it went small bet, fold, and the suspense kind of died down a little bit in those 4-bet pots. Whereas at first we were like, oh, 4-bet pot, here we go. But somehow the money doesn't get in as often as you might think in these 4-bet spots. And I
don't know. I think the money got in a lot in those spots. I got stacked a lot in 4-bet pots. So I don't know. I'm gonna fully agree with that. 4-bet pots are sort of their own animal. I think if I had to guess, I think I did pretty well in 4-bet pots. I think in position, I think I did well. Out of position, I'm unsure. a little less confident.
Odd position hard, a little tougher odd position, right? No matter what, 3-bet
Totally.
pot, 4-bet pots, it's
Totally.
challenging to move. Or Gonzbot on Twitch, it's so crazy how tame the 4-bet pots were, like almost all of them. Now that could be a whole luck versus not lucky thing, right? It's sort of our memory is like they weren't all in, so it wasn't that big, but there probably were a lot of really large pots and 4-bet pots, and a little biased about that too. Mike Churcher says Big Poppy and Tank Top Doug. Okay, so listen, guys, we need to address this real quick, all right? So people out there seem to think that Doug, I started wearing tank tops because Doug, right? And it's not true because I started doing content first, and I was rocking the Tank Top Nation hardcore.
No, I think you did that from when you saw me wearing one.
Oh my God.
I think so.
Doug, they go, Joey, you copied this guy in the tank. I go, no, man, the guy, he saw me in the tank top with the content.
Wait, are you really trying to pretend that's not what started it for you?
Well, you did wear no shirt that one time.
I came on your pod with no shirt. I was ahead of the game.
Do you remember that when you wore no shirt, and like what was it, green or pink headphones, or something like that on the podcast?
Something like that. I think it was green. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pink. I don't know.
And you talked about how bad tournament players were during this too.
Oh, I took so much heat for that. That was one of my most. People were so angry about how bad tournament players are.
In retrospect, do you think now the tournament?
Oh, sorry that I said it, but also that they are that bad.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean tournament players have come a long way. There's more software they can use and stuff. But yeah, you compare tournament players to cash game players in terms of how sharp they are. It's not particularly close. There are some great tournament players though that are very sharp. I'm talking about as just a group.
Right.
Tournament players have more degens that want the big score. They're itching. They're jonesing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas cash game players don't. Most tournament players that I know, professional tournament players, they love running deep in a big tourney. And to be fair, that is quite fun. But I'm not searching for that high, bruh.
Right.
I'm not. I'm just here to print cash. I don't know. It's a different mindset. I think.
Get the mayor impeached out of town, out of Vegas. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mike Churchill. Oh, thank you, Mike. Yeah, he said the sleeves. Okay, Richard Shelley. Thanks, Joey and Doug. Was amazing watching the Supreme Leader taking Beefy Sausage's money and Poppy GTO commenting, LOL, you guys are great. Okay, well, thank you very much, Richard Shelley. Appreciate the comments, all the good comments, all the questions. I see a lot of people still out there. I appreciate you guys very much. Dan, Jimmy Baker, Al Green, Lee Yang, Andrew Burns, Al Green, Nasty Nate. Nasty Nate's been here a long time. Jason Horton, he won he gets to play a heads-up tournament this week, so congratulations to Jason, and I wish him luck on that as well. So appreciate all the comments, all people's support. I'm going to make one final video sort of like on my thoughts about the challenge tomorrow, talking to the chat. Because we had a lot of people here watching here every single day, Doug, and it was great. What do you kind of think about the support the challenge got on the YouTube channel for that you guys have, and the work that Upswing did with Brady and with Jamie and with the cast of characters that you sort of brought in for that challenge on your end?
I think it went awesome. I think that the team did a great job. I think Mike put in so many long hours of streaming, and I think he did a really good job. And it was cool seeing Mike in that role because I think most of the people that commentated, Jamie for sure, some of the guys we had in the channel, I think that they've done commentary in some capacity, whereas Mike really had not. And I think a good number of people, Mike was their favorite commentator. So I think that was good. I think they did a really nice job. And what I liked about the way that Mike, how he commentated, was he kept it very poker based, what's happening in the hands. And I think stylistically you did this a little bit too. Yours was a little more hype on what was happening in the hands, but it was a more what's happening in the hands centric stream, whereas I think some streams had a little bit less of that going on. It was a little more just kind of casual chatting about whatever. I think if you wanted to follow the action, the Upswing stream was probably the best one. I mean, I give yours a close second, but then the missile strikes would come in and it would be kind of hard. In fact, my team of guys that were tracking stats, they had to all abandon your stream because someone said, "Hey, I missed the hand at Joey's at the 32-minute mark," and someone else would say, "Yeah, it's not the best one for tracking stats. It's fun and all, but when the coffin meme comes up, you're not going to be able to see some of the cards and." Sometimes there's,
it's a 5-second
police
meme.
Police just bursting through the ceiling. Yeah, but if I need their stats, I need to know what the stats are. I can't miss one hand.
Oh yeah, for tracking. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying.
So the police burst through the ceiling, and now I don't get to know what his turn frequency is.
If you're out there, okay, all right, I'm gonna talk to you guys. If you're out there manually inputting data from every hand, you're right. My stream might not be the best, but if you want high energy, intensity, passion, graphics and
You had a great stream.
a great fucking time, you come over to join your one YouTube
your
stream and you're going to get it. But if you're trying to track for my man Doug in the back room, right?
Ouch.
I'm not the one for it, okay? I'm not the stream. I agree. I'm not the stream. I agree.
Is he hitting a little close to home here? You're like,
bro, you had a
team.
team.
I put a lot of pride in
You're like
streams.
fucking Google. You had a team of people. They're lined up here. The members are there. They're inputting data.
Just
they're
imagine.
sending it to you. He got 7 3-bets this session. That's like, thank you for the information, right? You got the neural network guys. Pellegrino's coming in.
You're trying to figure out, Doug, I got turn probe, here we go, and then you pull up your favorite stream, and the SWAT team busts through the room, and you can't see, and then a missile strike comes down, and then Bill Perkins is dancing with the cop, and then a gorilla comes out and kicks somebody in the fucking face, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Doug, I only saw 7 of the probe spots. I don't know, man. There was missile strikes going on, and then there was a big truck and a small car. I don't fucking know.
You're talking about the Brinks truck when Doug Polk would smash into Negreanu when he made a big bluff. Is that what you're talking about right now?
I love the beep, beep, beep. I mean, the truck is backing up with the cash.
The Gorilla Gaming Glenn comes out for the first time during stream right now. He's boxing on Doug. Doug's getting hits right now. The Gorilla's in. No, he's coming on me. Get out of here, Gorilla. Ay, 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 papi, con la moza. Lock in. Okay, Gorilla, calm down. But yeah, man, listen, I try to have a much more... you know what I said coming into it? I said, how can I make this more fun, right? Like, what can I do here? What can I do? And I was like, I've always had this idea to just make it like real kind of memey, make it real high energy, make it exciting. Like that's how I like watching poker, talking poker. I get real into it. And
did you just put the gorilla kicking me in the face? Oh, now it's on you. Okay.
Now he's kicking me in the face. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
The gorilla was beating me down. He gave me a bunch of beatdowns during the stream, Poppy. It was shout out to the Gorilla Gaming Gorilla. Shout out to Gorilla Mesh. Motley Investor as always. Motley Investor, you're a big supporter with Hex. I don't know much about Hex. People on Twitter told me it was out of line. He kept donating and promoting, so
I think it's out of line.
Out of line too. And yeah, Doug, it's this week, so you're doing a lot of podcasts this week. You're gonna be everywhere. You're gonna go on all the shows. You're gonna talk about a bunch of different things, and then after that, relax, take your time, kick back, survey the land, and see what's up next for the Supreme Leader, huh?
That's the game plan.
I love it, man. I love it. And you mentioned number one piece of poker advice up there. I mean, I guess this is your number one piece. You talked about always betting big on yourself, and now people meme.
I see the hoodie.
What's up?
See the hoodie.
I know. Yeah. Listen, we love that then. We love betting on yourself and risking on your all and getting yourself a challenge, giving yourself a high bar, setting some goals for yourself that maybe are out of reach and uncomfortable, but when you get there, it just it could really be life changing for you. And you mentioned that on Twitter, and people sort of memed it and said, "Oh, Negreanu bet on himself." Like, look what happened to him. I think Negreanu actually is going to benefit greatly from this challenge, in that he's not only a completely different poker player in terms of how strong he's going to be theoretically, but also in terms of getting his name out there and getting that attention and helping out GG Poker and giving himself foundation to grow off of now to the future to become however he wants to become at poker. So I think he actually did win too.
I think the best thing for Negreanu is really going to be the strategy stuff that he learned moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Will make him substantially stronger in the stuff that he plays. I think that's going to... I don't know what his ROI. So Negreanu plays high volume tournaments. Let's just say in the next 10 years, Negreanu is going to play. What's a good number of dollars in buy-ins? 10 million, 25 million, 20 million, 50 million. It depends on high orders. Okay, let's say he plays 20 million in buy-ins, and his ROI goes up by 5%. He made money on this, So it's a spot where I think that he will be a substantially better player moving forward. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what his situation with sponsorship and GG. They probably paid him some amount. I imagine that financially this will end up making Negreanu money, even if it's not directly in the winning money from the challenge.
I agree. I think it's going to be a positive thing for GG moving forward, in that they get a lot of different attention out there. They're trying to build up their brand. They got a bunch of shows in the works too. And they're trying to become the number one poker site. They're pushing Poker Stars to get better with their strategies and marketing on different platforms. And it's going to be a battle, man.
I mean,
Poker
I don't
King's
know, man.
top
They're
of
going
the
to
mix.
they're gonna have to beat poker dudes.
Poker dudes, Jesus, poker bros, Poppy.
Oh, poker guys.
The cat jam's in the house, Doug. You see the cat's nodding his head. You can't on the screen right now, Doug. There you go. The one cat, Landon's likely wanted Doug to do the cat jam so bad on here. So moving forward, we got Landon as well too. Are you gonna coach Landon? Are you open to potentially coaching the young up and comer?
Right now, I'm not involved with either side. I don't know. I'm not. It's a weird spot because obviously I know both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely could potentially work with either of them. I'm sure if I really wanted to, but yeah, I don't want anyone to feel upset because I'm kind of friends with both of them, you know. So I don't know. It feels a little bit. It's a bit of a tough spot for me, really, to work with someone. I think.
Yeah, in terms of getting in. Did you see the other coffin meme? There's a second one I made up for the final day, Doug. I'm gonna play it now.
What are we laughing at?
It's a new version of the coffin meme. I put new faces on the people holding
nice.
the coffin.
It's the upswing one?
Yeah. It's you.
I love it.
I put you, me, Brady, and Jimmy Kerstetter on the coffin, carrying the coffin through.
I saw that. That was great.
It was a special edition for the last day, guys. Listen, man, I think that's what I got here. I kept Doug here, and you guys in the chat long enough on Twitch, on YouTube, everybody out there. Appreciate all the support, all the love throughout the challenge. It's been a real great time. I'm gonna do one more video tomorrow on it, and then I might do some like highlight top moments, stuff like that. Go through it. It's a long challenge. We got a lot to go through. And Doug's gonna be doing a lot of content. He's also posting on his Twitter, Doug Polk Vids. If you want to follow him on Twitter, he's always sharing his thoughts on the election, or on politics, or on NFL sports betting, on Bitcoin. On the guy's always sharing a lot of different opinions. I like following it because it kind of
also. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, you're doing your thing.
What do you got? What do you got? Go ahead. What do you got?
If you are someone looking to learn about Joey, is there a game with multiple cards? Is there?
I know a game called The Great Game.
What is it called? It's called it's something about the size of the bet. Anyway, if you're looking to play the great game of Pot Limit Omaha, we have a new course on Upswing, the PLO Launchpad by Dylan Wiseman. A great course to get your foot in the door,
get it wet,
and learn about the fundamental mechanics to becoming a profitable PLO player. I think it's a nice starting point for people to jump in.
PLO boom 2021, Doug. What do you think? Are we booming? Is this? I mean, is this it?
I mean, do they have that on Poker Man?
Poker Man? What are you talking about?
You can play PLO over on Poker Man, right?
They definitely have PLO on Poker Man. They got PLO 5 card. They got the. Yeah, that's right. The link's below, guys, for the PLO, the Launchpad. Dylan Weissman's been working on that for months. Veronica's in the chat. Shout out to Veronica. Veronica, congratulations. She's going to be the new host, Poker After Dark on Poker Go. So Veronica going to be doing a lot more content in the poker world, which you always like to see. She's got a lot of fans out there. She's converting to the great game of Pot Limit Omaha as well. Oof. And we're having Dylan on the show on Wednesday. We're going to be talking all about the great game. Dylan's been working on this course pretty hardcore over the past couple months. And I was telling him, dude, we need a fucking course. Like, you got to make something for a cheaper price point to just learn the game. Because people always say, where do I learn the game? Where do I learn the game? So I'm super happy this product came out. I wish it came out 4 years ago because, then we have 4 more years people learning Pot Limit Omaha, the great game, and PLO would be a little bit more out there right now. But yeah, I'm excited for the course. I'm going to check it out today and see what it's all about. But I know Dylan's been working really hard at it. So the guy definitely puts his all into his work. So you can kind of know that. But yeah, anything else we got to leave him with, Doug? Any last piece of life advice you want to leave the people out there? You want to give them some wisdom, my friend? Yeah.
I think that we've said what we need to say today.
Absolutely.
And I just want to go out on a final note here of, in life, you're going to have good times, you're going to have bad times, but just remember to always bet in yourself, because you know how serious you're going to take anything that you decide to do. And if you got the heart and you got the fire, you got the passion, don't be afraid to bet a little bigger on yourself than might feel totally comfortable. Now, I'm not saying to put your roll on the fucking line. I don't want any rounder scenarios. Get emails. Doug, you said that I needed to bet on myself, and now I'm forced to play on Poker People. Poker People is my favorite club app, and they have to play the 5s. No, but the point is, sometimes you do have to fire on yourself, and don't be afraid to bet on yourself. That's my final takeaway here.
Fucking love it. Monster Stack Wizard comes in with the 20. On that note, congrats to Doug for his victory in the Heads Up Challenge. Monster Stack Wizard. Thank you, Monster Stack Wizard. And on that note, we're going to leave it, guys, in the chat. Appreciate you very much. You can find it on iTunes, search Poker Life. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment below. Let us know what you think, takeaways, thoughts, anything like that. I'll be sharing more of my thoughts soon. And that's what we got. Doug, as always, a pleasure to have you on. Next podcast, we talk more investing, more Bitcoin finance, investing, that sort of stuff like that. and with some poker. But I'm glad we got to talk about the challenge. I appreciate you and Daniel for putting it on for the fans. I know they really enjoyed it. It was a great time, especially during coronavirus. We all got to find something to kind of care about and escape from and stop thinking about really what's happening out there in that world for a little bit. So we appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much for that. And that's what we got, guys. Peace.